Hello survivors and welcome to First Aid Spray, a Resident Evil podcast by fans for fans. This is episode 107 of the show where we'll be swapping the mic and a big gun back and forth as we do our full review of Resident Evil Requiem. My name is Sai and Requiem is good, but my game of the year is probably going to be Pokopia. And joining me on the panel this week, returning to the place where it all began for him, that is to say, a YouTube Let's Play of a Resident Evil game. It's Moist Owlet aka James.
My game of the year is Guild Wars 2.
There is definitely TARP in this game, but more importantly to him, it's got plenty of CRT monitor eye candy too. It's Kelsey, aka KDB.
Hello, the last time I brushed my teeth was this morning.
In case Leon is listening. And scooping up as much blood as possible to fill all of the gaps, it's Fire Button Steve Valance.
Hi everybody.
Every episode of First Aid Spray is recorded live on Discord, so join our server now to become part of our fantastic community that includes Resident Evil diehards and newbies. If you'd like, you can support the show via our merchandise store or over at patreon.com/FASprayPod for as little as $1 a month. All of this and all of our social media links can be found at our website, faspraypod.com. Shout out to our new Patreons. We've had a few people turn up for First Aid Spray and we appreciate you for doing so. So thank you to LED23, Norbert Lader, hopefully I pronounced that correctly, and Corey. So this is a really important episode, obviously, but we do have a little bit of like a double dose of housekeeping at the top of the show, which is pretty important, so please bear with us. Number one, it's important because we need you. Our next episode of the show will be the 30th anniversary of Resident Evil Celebration, which is at the time of recording in basically like 2 weeks' time. And our idea for this is a kind of award ceremony where you pick the winners. There is a form included in the description of this podcast, wherever you're listening to it, that you can fill out now. Please do so at your soonest possible convenience, because we will be recording this episode soon. And you need to tell us what you think the best boss fight in the series is, what the worst puzzle is, who the best duo of characters are, which character you never want to see again, stuff like that, from big questions to silly questions like who is the worst driver. And on our next episode, we're going to try and predict what you voted for and discuss the winners. So we're calling it the Rezzies. Please vote now in the Rezzies. Our other piece of housekeeping before we get into a very long form discussion on Resident Evil Requiem is something slightly more important, which is regarding the rise of AI in everything, including our humble favourite hobby of gaming. I won't speak for all of the First Aid Spray team, because there's many of us now, but at least the four of us here oppose generative AI in gaming. Due to all the reasons I'm sure you're all aware of, it is the single most important topic in culture right now. I'm sure you're all aware, economic struggles and the ecological problems that come with it, the damage it does to the planet, the steep rising cost of living and of the hobby itself. We know that right now, the jobs that it puts at risk. And of course, AI is theft. Where else does it get all this information and all this imagery from? But it just, pulls it from the internet. This might seem kind of out of nowhere and weird, but we wanted to address this because this is the first time that we'll be reviewing a major Resident Evil product since the rise of generative AI, and Capcom haven't really said much on it. In January of 2025, they said they're experimenting with ideas for in-game environments with it, and then they sort of repeated a very similar thing at December of the same year. Presumably, making an assumption, this is to do with Monster Hunter Rise. Likely, though, very possible that it was used in Requiem. We don't know for sure, but we now exist in a time where we can't rule this possibility out. So I think the important thing is we just wanted to say out up front that we're opposed to the use of generative AI in gaming. And Capcom, we've always said for a long time now, and it's not just Resident Evil fans to say it, everyone in gaming knows they're one of the biggest and one of the best publishers around right now. They are constantly hitting out the park and not falling over necessarily the same stumbles publicly that everyone else is. But there's still places where we think they could do better. And a statement of, saying no to AI would be something that we want to hear from them. So Capcom, please do better. So with that out of the way, let's move into our full spoilerific review of Resident Evil Requiem. And now, reading the file Nurse's Log from Resident Evil Requiem, Isaac McCraw, who you can find on YouTube at The Raging Robin.
September 3rd. As per the doctor's orders, from today I will take part in monitoring the progress of Subject 171. She's emotionless and unsettling. This assignment fills me with unease. September 10th. Subject 171 is blind and requires a lot of assistance. I felt sorry for her and tried to offer some comfort by stroking her hair, but as always received no reaction. Such an unnerving child. I just want to go home and shower. September 24th. For some reason, the security manager joined me today. He asked Subject 171 2 or 3 questions about blood, but of course a child wouldn't know how to respond. What a strange man.
When the Resident Evil Requiem reveal trailer dropped, I'm pretty sure I said, at the very least on social media, most likely on a podcast as well, that this is the most excited I've been for a Resident Evil game, perhaps ever. And it feels like I'm not the only one with that sentiment. This feels like the most hyped Resident Evil release, perhaps, of all time. And now, as we record about a week out from the game's release, we have seen that translate into 5 million plus in sales within the first 4 days. The Metacritic scores for the game, critically, lots of 9s and 10s out of 10, in fact. And famously this week, it became the best rated game on Metacritic per audience score with 9.5, tying with some other games, but at the top of the board, so that's quite interesting. So yes, suffice to say, has Resident Evil ever been bigger? Because it feels like this is the biggest moment in Resident Evil for a very, very long time. And we're going to talk about how we feel about Requiem from top to bottom, so strap in. I think, without any further ado then, let's talk about the gameplay, I think, to start with. The big selling point of the game is bringing all of these different parts of Resident Evil together, both the third person and the first person, both the horror and the action with Grace and Leon. So let's start with Grace's gameplay, I think, first. And because she's kind of like the primary protagonist for at least the first half of the game. So, James, how do you feel about Grace's gameplay in Resident Evil Requiem?
So my initial introduction to Grace was really solid. I mean, yeah, you were talking about hype there. I was getting more hype towards the release, and like when I started to play Grace, you enter the city, you get control of her, and you then go into first person. I was like, okay, I know what I'm in for here. So one thing I will point out about kind of gameplay with Grace, that kind of, it goes into Leon's as well, so it's kind of a twofer here, is how scripted a lot of the natural gameplay felt at times. And that was with everything. And I will speak about other things later that I liked. But everything felt scripted and a little bit too much. Like, I know we were told prior to the game's release that, the zombies that we come across, the enemies that we come across are going to be talking about their previous lives and the roles they took. But I think I could identify every single time every zombie had a trigger and it was visible. Right. Instead of being hidden behind a wall that, out of POV, stuff like that. I don't know if anybody else dealt with that. I especially started noticing it when you're kind of backtracking through the care center. Though it did kind of iron itself out towards the end, though it was still there. But yeah, that was kind of my biggest complaint with Grace and Leon. The inclusion of that blood collector thing, super intriguing at first. And it led me to, like, the gameplay of it and the kind of its inclusion led me to ask questions of its intentions. And the potential for it to be a larger player within the story, if that makes sense as well. So I was quite disappointed that we got no more information about this thing. It felt like a random thought, like, rather than an important element of this new character that we got so excited about. And I still love, by the way. I freaking adore Grace. And yeah, unfortunately, this isn't an isolated incident in the game where big elements are introduced that are never really followed up with much reason as to the whys and hows. Like making the things we did from mutated blood. We made bullets from blood. We made blood bullets. We joke about Chris punching boulders, but blood bullets.
Chris is shooting things with blood.
Yeah, and it's like, because the thing is that she's making blood bullets, and then Leon just finds exactly the same bullets. So yeah, there's these inconsistencies there, especially considering the conclusion of the story. But just speak positively, Grace's sections, they're a great horror experience. Like, she is exceptionally slow, but for some reason she's faster in third person. Though she falls over. I think they know this. They tried to balance Grace.
I think that's
in
the
third
balance.
person.
Yeah.
By making her fall over, which I found quite funny. But in first person, you can avoid hits much easier, which is quite interesting. But yeah, to go back to kind of the narrative, like of the gameplay, like her panic breathing, the nervous hands she had. Sometimes you would forget when I was in my first playthrough. Sometimes you would forget. I would not really forget, but you kind of get lax in terms of the horror of the game, and then you'd hear like a, from Grace, like she's scared, and now, oh, well, I'm scared now. Like, why is she scared? And her kind of the handling of a firearm as well. It translated really well. You did not want to fight with Grace
Yes.
during your first playthrough. Or even be seen majority of the time as well. And these moments, I think these moments are where the game really shone with Grace. They shone most. The slow burn and the questions that kept popping up for both you and Grace as she was learning.
I had a really cool experience, I think, when you talk about like the balance of there's the classic survival horror thing, right, about resource management. And I probably played overly cautious as Grace were going through the care center and stuff. And part of that was because I felt so underpowered that everything felt precious. So I was like, I'm hoarding every injector and requiem bullet, especially because there's a chef wandering around with a big knife. And then there's a big monster-y guy who can bash open doorways and grab at you. Like, there's a lot of different threats going on in the care center that I was mostly just trying to stay out of the way of because I didn't know how much I needed to get kind of involved with them and how much it was going to take them down. By the end of the care center section, I was typically in Resident Evil fashion, kind of armed to the teeth because of it. And that's kind of fine. That's kind of what I want. It felt like that entire section, and we'll talk about locations a little bit later, more specifically. But that little section in itself was like a little arc for Grace for me. Going from helpless to standing up against some of those bigger monsters and stuff. They really hit the nail on the head with half of their comparisons with Requiem when they were talking about the differences between Leon and Grace. They said RE7 and RE4 were kind of how you should think about it. No, RE7 and RE2? RE2 and RE4. What did they say? Did they say RE7? It felt like RE7 is the point I want to make. So if that's what they were going for, I very much got that for better and for worse. And it's the same director, so I kind of expect it. That sort of on-railsy nature, which on repeat playthroughs in particular really feels like, okay, get through the first area again and whatever, and we'll get into the actual flow state of the game. But on a first playthrough, I thoroughly enjoyed it. I wasn't sure about the blood collector thing personally when they revealed it, because I didn't really know what to make of it, but I enjoyed it as a crafting mechanic. Does it make sense? Not really. I don't really mind. It's kind of video gamey and silly. It's part of the broader theming of blood as being important, I guess. It's fine, but as a crafting mechanic, it was different enough to for me to enjoy it. Even though I'm sure if you changed it to something else, it would just be the same as so many other games, but there was something about changing it to blood that at least made it feel different. Steve, how did you get on with Grace's gameplay?
I mean, like pretty much you folks have already said, like mechanically, I was still fully stoked with how well it worked. Like perhaps maybe a few too many linear sequences thrown her way, especially at the start. But like the bulk of her game being stealth emphasis instead of the usual blasty, shooty stuff. It's a nice little change of pace, especially with the way the game goes. Like, her first proper gameplay sequence where you're off the rails, you've got a single handgun bullet in the most powerful gun in the game. Good luck, have fun.
Yeah.
It's a nice little wrinkle. It's like, I guess, starting with the rocket launcher, but you only get one shot, so make it count. Obviously, you get like more resources as you go on, and it's all about just finding the right moment when to either skulk around, distract with a bottle, or gratuitously explode them stealthily with juice. But no, I think that the thing is, because obviously, I want to say, is it Angela St. Angelo Albano? I'm sorry, I'm going to ruin her name. But the voice performance was throwing me off so much that I was getting nervous so often that I would literally dip out of the safe room to go grab a few resources and then hurry back and save again, to the point where I'm burning through ink ribbons, just casually just annihilating them. I'm making them and then using them. And before I left the care centre, I was almost strapped for resources as a result because of this.
Nice.
Which it's a nice little wrinkle, I feel. Yeah, but it also meant that you keep going back out to get more resources. Oh, I've got lockpicks, I can unlock this desk. Oh, I've got some more blood packs, I can make a injector, for stabilize and stuff. Like how they actually do represent that in third person. Like her hands visibly get steadier the more of those stabilizers she takes, to the point where she's almost not quite as badass as Leon is, let's be real. But she holds her gun as competently as 2 remake Leon did at the end of the game. So it's a nice little player character driven character arc. But her toe-to-toes with the girl, the beastie monster, that's where it feels like there's a whole sequence later on that I'm sure we'll talk about the area in depth, but that feels, with Resident Evil's mechanics, they've managed to ape a little bit of Amnesia the Bunker, which is you can repel the big monster with this gun, but you can't stop it. You've got to evade it and solve the puzzles, and I thought that was nice.
I really like how, and you sort of touched on it a little bit there, she has quite a decent list of things at her disposal to deal with situations one way or the other, like bottles as distractions and stuff like that. The injector things that make enemies explode. Requiem being a chunky old Magnum thing. Molotov cocktails after a certain point in the game. But then just a couple of handguns. Like, there were a few moments where I was like, I could feel my thumb itching to swap to the shotgun that she doesn't have, because I've just been playing as Leon, who's armed to the teeth. And I kind of love that, come down, even if the parts of the game by that point weren't particularly challenged, because like I say, I was very well armed myself. Talking about Grace's growth, or Grace's sort of anxieties and fear and stuff, this actually both characters do this, but it really works for Grace. One of my favourite touches in a video game perhaps ever is that even if you've reloaded, you can press the reload button again and the character checks. And I just thought that's brilliant, because as a serial reloader, I got to see that all the time and feel a little bit like an idiot as well for doing it. Like the game was going, ha, you're scared at me. And yeah, fair enough, really. Kelsey, what did you think of playing as Grace?
You've all said things that I was going to say, which is kind of cool to hear. We're all on kind of similar pages. I think it must have been Adam, I think, who said years ago that he has this thing where he's playing Resident Evil and he does exactly what you said happened there, Si, where you're very careful with your resources and then you end up being completely overloaded. At the end, you've got 17 herbs and 25 bullets that you didn't need and stuff like that, which is exactly what I did this playthrough as well, because that's what the Grace gameplay is kind of designed, or how that's supposed to make you feel. This is, in simplest terms for me, this is exactly how I wanted Resident Evil to feel. She is the classic survival horror, puzzle solving, exploring a dark mansion or a care centre in this case. Backtracking, unlocking doors, digging through bathtubs of blood, limited resources, all this kind of stuff. And I spent most of the time avoiding enemies. I did not save my Requiem bullets, Steve. I used that pretty much on the first zombie I saw. So,
I did that the first time.
Go me. And I just painted the walls with the zombie's blood. So that was fun. Which also meant, I had a tougher time dodging the butcher and stuff as well. But yeah, so I felt, she is slower. She feels more vulnerable compared to Leon, the bigger focus on stealth and atmosphere. And that's how I felt. That's how it made me feel. And that is what I wanted. Grace felt like I was playing, as a fun way of saying it, my Resident Evil. And I generally
Completely.
loved every second with it. And I do completely agree. So much of it is linear and scripted. I think on a first playthrough, it did not bother me at all. I mean, I was happy to kind of soak it up, but I got something in here later where I said, like, this is kind of a speedrunner's nightmare, this game, because there is a lot of stuff that is just waiting around and, those little sections which can be a bit fiddly. But, that's what the game is, and it's fine. I have very minimal complaints about playing with Grace, but really enjoyed it. It's like, yes, it is RE7 coded, but also RE2 coded as well. I actually played, we'll talk about more of this in a minute, but my first playthrough, I did both third person, and then the second playthrough, both first person, which I know isn't the intended way.
Interesting.
But because I prefer the third person, I thought I'm just going to try it that way. So there was a couple of things that I noticed playing it that way with Grace that didn't annoy me, and I said this on the RE4 podcast as well, I think she's missing a dodge, and I feel like she could have had a dodge. I found myself, feeling like I needed that because I'm avoiding a lot more than somebody like Leon, and Grace doesn't really have a defense. Her defensive weapons are the knives, if you have them, and the injectors. They're kind of consumables, where Leon's got his all the time. So I would have really loved to have her dodge, but maybe, she's just an analyst. She's not been through that kind of training, I suppose. So it kind of makes sense story-wise and for her character. But yeah, I generally loved it. And so you mentioned the other mechanics, like the injectors and the stealth kills. They bring in the broken glass later, I thought was cool as well. All these little things that just kind of add to her style of gameplay were really good. And the puzzles were very throwback with what you had to find. What are the highlights? She has some of the, whereas Leon is a lot of blasting around, Grace has some of the more kind of body horror sections as well, which is really good. The meat grinder section, which felt like that whole underground basement section, we'll talk more later, but that was like a classic Resident Evil, find these items, but also now you've got your stalker enemy as well. That was really good. So yeah, despite the scripted stuff and linearity of it, I also really missed an extra weapon. Like you said, like I could have done, I get it. I get why they really limited her weapons, but a shotgun, it feels like a shot or a bow gun or something, let's have something extra in there for her would have been nice. And I know I think you can unlock an extra weapon or something, but generally there was almost nothing about Grace's sections that I really didn't get on with. The Emily escort section, I wish you could have put her down anywhere, but I liked what it was doing, and the character stuff with Emily and Grace, and how it's a little bit like Claire and Sherry as well. It's all this Resident Evil theme stuff is in there that I really liked. So loads of nice ideas, and just on the whole, playing as Grace it's certainly my preferred way to play. Not to take anything away from the rest of the game, but yeah, this was my Resident Evil, and absolutely loved playing as Grace. It gave me exactly those thrills that I wanted, and yeah, the gameplay was pretty damn fantastic, I think.
I have to agree in large part in the sense that, yeah, this is my kind of what I want out of a Resident Evil game personally. To say nothing for how I feel about the rest of the game, because we will get there. But if this was, if this section is Grace, that first sort of area, the care center and stuff like that, and the basement, which we'll, again, talk about a bit more detail later, if we just did one of those again and then the credits rolled, I probably would have been fine with it. Like, this is exactly what I want from a modern Resident Evil. You talk about the dodging thing. What I do like is, if in classic RE Engine fashion, if you get grabbed from behind, you kind of can't do anything about it. You're taking some damage. But there are certain angles where if you get grabbed, the character can kind of just shake it off. I don't know if they take a little bit of damage as well. There's no animation of a bite or anything, but that's quite a cool, like, hair-raising moment where it's like, oh, I'm grabbed. Oh, I'm okay. Go, 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 go. I really enjoyed bits like that, bits and pieces like that. So I don't know personally if I would have a dodge added to it because I really like that little mechanic. Speaking of mechanics, one thing nobody's talked about and I just want to go around the table and ask about is the reintroduction of the ink ribbon mechanic, this time not just tied to whatever the highest difficulty is like previous RE Engine games. Now when you boot up the game, casual, and then you have standard, modern, which has more autosaves, and standard classic, which is where Grace has to use ink ribbons to save and doesn't get quite as many autosaves, or even make some ink ribbons out of blood and ink pots. So she's literally, as James kind of alluded to, I guess she's just writing in blood. Did everyone use the old typewriter mechanic? Was it just me? I really loved that was a thing. I'm really happy that was an option. They gave me way too many. I mean, I spent a lot of time dying and redoing sections, but I kind of enjoyed the feeling of like, oh, this is nostalgic to me, maybe. I probably could have avoided that by saving more, and I still would have come out with, half a dozen ink ribbons to spare. Steve, did you use the ink ribbon mechanic?
I did. In hindsight, though, I feel like this is just clever marketing because I swear standard classic is actually just hard because there's a handful of enemies. Like, I want to say the chef turns up when he shouldn't do.
Oh, right.
I feel like this is marketing, but it's actually like, it's really easy, standard, hard.
That's how I think
insanity.
of it. Yeah.
Because there's something, it's not just the ink ribbons, there's some other bits about that difficulty where extra enemies appear, and I would argue maybe just a little bit more tanky. Not a lot, but like, for example, the chef, like, I insta-jibbed him. Like, he got like the old injector to neck treatment, still turns up at that one sequence that we'll talk about later.
Right.
So,
yeah.
Cheeky, unless there's multiple chefs at this place.
I think there might
be entirely possible, but I know he doesn't show up on easy and classic. So,
right.
Yeah. I thought it was okay, but again, it's you have to decide: are you spending resources on precious saving or precious bullets / injectors? Which I feel like they need to stick to the guns. If the next big time they have to really just go, no, you're going to do manual saves.
Yeah,
because it was fun. And it should be a part of the game. Not you miss it in Leon's half of the game because that's almost auto rolling, and it kind of it sucks.
I agree.
Not to get into it, but yeah, it's a fundamental part that I think should be taken in consideration.
Kelsey, did you use the ink ribbon mechanic or go modern?
No, I didn't. And I didn't even realise I'd done that. I was playing through and I was like, oh yeah, I see what's happened. And then I did my second playthrough on first person perspective, as I said it, and still selected modern again. And I have started a third one with it, but I haven't messed around with it. But yes, I kind of agree with Steve. I feel like, just get them in there and kind of go all in.
James, which difficulty did you go with?
I finished my second playthrough a couple hours ago of classic. So I did classic a couple hours ago. I didn't like it.
No?
I don't like the ink ribbon. I get the nostalgia of it, but for me, I don't really have that. But like, it was an inconvenience rather than a
it's self-flagellation.
Yeah, like, and normally I like that kind of stuff, but like it was a. There's also the making the ink ribbons, and it's like you're already incredibly limited. There were some typewriters that had one ink ribbon next to them, and I just would have preferred if they did that instead. They just had those ink ribbons around because I'm already struggling with inventory space. I don't need another slot taken just to save. It was inconvenient, and I didn't like that. I suppose also I might have had a different opinion if I had played classic first, maybe, and then played the standard, the modern for the next playthrough. But yeah, if something doesn't need to be there, no, I don't like it.
That's fair. That's fair. To Steve's point as well about the difficulty, I think. That's another like tick in the column of it's kind of like hard mode because you have to spend that blood that you would elsewise be using on something else. So it's not just the inconvenience of dying and have to do a bunch of stuff. It's weighing up yet more like what am I going to craft? Okay, cool. Let's talk about the other side of the game then with Leon, who shows up It drips and drabs throughout the first half, and then kind of largely gets the second half of the game. As I said, this is going to be through the full spoiler podcast. So if you've listened to this part and you haven't finished the game, potentially we're going to start dropping gameplay spoilers in from here, and it's only probably going to ramp up from there. Kelsey, what did you think of Leon's gameplay sections?
So, yep, the action sections, I feel like, yes, they're like Remake 4. We know that we've got that. And there was questions going into this. Are they going to go too far into Resident Evil 6 kind of stuff? But I am quite happy to say that I feel like this just felt, I mean, obviously infinitely more grounded than something like Resident Evil 6 with his action gameplay and everything you can do with Leon. Feels way less arcadey than RE6 did. And even less frantic than RE4 Remake. So I was really pleased generally with how Leon functioned. And I think there's times they do hit you with quite a few enemies, but it never felt super hoardy point scoring and stuff. Ironically, you do score points in this game with the little tracker thing, which is fine.
True.
But you know what I mean? And Leon, of course, he's fully equipped to deal with it all. He's ready to go. And I generally, aside from a couple of sections, I found myself beaming while I was playing as him. Definitely, I preferred playing as Grace with that style within the context of the game. But yeah, and I think largely they do such a good job at introducing Leon in this game. That opening sequence is easily the best outbreak we've seen in any of the games ever.
Oh my goodness.
For me.
Yeah.
It's so good as he's walking through the city, and that kind of high energy introduction where it introduces you to Leon, to Requiem, to the throwing of the poles, to his axe, to his hatchet. I loved that. And okay, I get it. I get what we're doing with Leon. And I wasn't feeling the horror vibes, but I was having a blast and having fun and smiling and laughing. And then, some of his melee can feel a bit over the top and anime, but the gunplay was constantly fun and the weapons feel powerful. That the hatchet is one of the best additions they've ever given to Leon. I think the strikes carry a lot of weight. I don't know if the PS5 has haptic feedback. I assume it does on the controller. I've not experienced it for myself.
It does,
but
yeah.
I thought that must be really good. Stopping to sharpen it is just such a good mechanic, and it just looks really badass as well. He kind of probably should have a cigarette in his mouth while he's doing it. It might make it even more badass. And yeah, he's all about the shooting and the weaponry, and the trend of the shooting, for the most part, getting better in RE games continues here for me. It feels a bit more slowed down than something like RE4, but I liked that. It just felt more balanced and grounded. Every shot has, that satisfying thump, if you like, especially the Requiem pistol, which is very reminiscent of like the custom Magnum and stuff like that, and just splattering blood everywhere, and adds brutality to Leon and his approach. So, and I really liked the throwing of the pipes, as I said, and the cinder blocks. That's all fun. So it was about what I expected I was going to get from Leon, and I definitely had some issues, which we'll talk about soon, but for the most part, all of Leon's action sections were good, apart from one big section of the game. And yeah, I can see why lots of people had so much fun playing this game and why it's done so well, because it is fun. And Grace's gameplay might be more what I want from Resident Evil, but in terms of how the action functions, there's nothing wrong with how it functions. I play RE6 and I'm like, this is dumb. This feels like an arcade machine. I should be down in the arcade playing it for 5 minutes. And then that's it. That's not what Leon's gameplay feels like. It's like RE4, and the chainsaw's back as well. The chainsaw doesn't lose its charm. Although, I don't know, the zombies flying across the room while they're kind of attached to the chainsaw, not letting go of it. Like that's one of the moments where it's like, is this too far? But I don't know. I was laughing and having fun. So, we don't have a merchant. We have the cases to buy stuff from. So it was about what I expected from Leon. And I thought I was going to hate it. No, I didn't think I was going to hate it. I enjoyed it way more than I was expecting I was going to. Apart from some sections of the game, but we'll talk about that in a bit. But yeah, generally it's there. It's Leon. It feels very, very fun and very kind of devastating in lots of ways.
As I said, Grace's gameplay was more the stuff that immediately clicked with me. So when it was time to play as Leon, I'm not going to say I was like, but I want to be playing as Grace. But I'm kind of glad it was in short bursts at first because I wanted to get back to the other stuff.
Yeah.
But I do agree with you in terms. Well, I think all the gunplay in this game is satisfying. Even when you're playing as Grace, it all feels really powerful and really chunky. But obviously that is a big focus of Leon stuff. And once we get past the city street segment, and I think the next part you take control of them is in the attic of the care center. That whole like tension and relief thing, they really go for it here because you've spent all that time being chased around by the likes of Chunk, the big guy, and then Leon immediately just gets to put one down. And you're at that point, you're like, okay, this is this is ridiculous. You immediately get that like power trip, and then the game's throwing weapons at you and all kinds of stuff. You get a sniper rifle very early on and this kind of thing. In terms of the balance of the action and stuff, I do think it definitely doesn't feel like exactly like 4 Remake. There's obviously enough new stuff going on here. It does feel a little bit like Resident Evil 6 to me, which is not a negative thing, even though we've spent hours upon hours bagging on RE6 a few months ago. This is kind of what Resident Evil 6 probably should have been, and probably what I wished it was. Like, when it gets ridiculous, as you said, you're kind of like laughing along with it. And that is probably just because there is more to this game than just the ridiculousness of it. Even when RE6 was like, this is not an RE6 podcast, but here we are. Even when RE6 was like, hey, we're going to do a little bit of everything. And they just lied, and it was just all action nonsense. This actually has done that, so I'm kind of okay with stuff like the chapel sniping section, which I think was meant to be aping something like Resi 4 more, but it still felt like RE6 to me. And that's okay. The hatchet's completely OP. I spent a lot of Leon's sort of first half trying to figure out why I wouldn't sharpen the hatchet all of the time. Like, what's the downside to this? There isn't one. It's unlimited. Sharpen it and go in with a full hatchet every time and just carve up your enemies. Good luck, have fun. It's ridiculous. The execution kills, also ridiculous. The pulling the trigger at the right moment as you get grabbed and just jamming a shotgun into a zombie's throat. The gore on display goes up to 11 when Leon's about, and all the memes that everyone has seen over the last week of the difference between zombies chasing Grace and Leon chasing zombies. I mean, the joke feels overplayed already, but it's very apt. Like, going through the care center after Grace and putting down all the things that you left alive before with ease, and then coming back as Grace and just like scooping up the rewards for it was kind of hilarious. I'm not as on board with the chainsaw stuff. It's fine. I'm glad it doesn't overstay its welcome. It's just a couple of times in the game. Kind of like, it's one of the many things in Requiem, and we'll talk about this as we go along, where it's like, hey, look at the thing. We did the thing. In fact, the whole game is, oh my God, they actually did the thing, the game. So Leon wielding the chainsaw against enemies is like a long overdue thing. So I'm glad it's in here. I don't appreciate that. Why can't Leon turn a chainsaw off before he puts it down? Like, what is that about? And it sits on the floor and then it spins in a circle and you can't get near it or you take damage. And then the zombies that have no care or consideration for their own health just go in and grab it. So every time a zombie drops, like a zombie spawns with a chainsaw, you down that zombie, the chainsaw drops to the floor. You have to kill like 3 or 4 more zombies before you can even get close enough to pick it up, which is like, it's kind of weird. So I was at that point, I was just like, I might as well just shoot them all. This is so much easier. But there we go. James, what did you think of Leon's gameplay?
My first introductions, or our first introductions to Leon, they're so quick. And before you play him proper, you have to fight 3 bosses immediately as a tutorial, which I thought was very funny, but I did love that. It also gave you enough time to get semi-familiar with him. Like, you can die, but it's very hard to, in those introductory
That's what you think. I did.
Well, it's funny because I didn't die at all with him in those first tutorial levels, and then when I did it in classic, I died a lot. It's because I was like overthinking stuff instead of instinctually looking inside myself and seeing the tiger that is Leon. You know, but it was great to get familiar with those tutorials, but like not fully. So when he eventually took charge, you had some foundations to work from. I said it in the Requiem discussion chat, but when I took charge of Leon properly in East Raccoon and went through that shutter, where there's like you come upon the zombies that come out the ground, which henceforth I will be calling Angelas. That's a deep cut. From the past. And by the way, just to give you all context, an Angela is an old zombie that's hard as nails. Okay. I'm not going to give any more context than that. But yeah, I got humbled, let's just say, like, because in those tutorial levels, I was just going for it, you know, the game wanted you to have fun. Yeah. And it wanted you to go for it and have fun with Leon and just like, yes, this is our hero and he can't really die. He's got plot armor for days. So just, go through it. And then when I went through that shutter, I was like, oh yeah, I'll just keep doing that. Immediately got swamped and murdered. Like, it was very humbling and like they were taking 6, 7, sometimes 8 shots to the knee and not going down. Right. And I was like, what is going on here? You know? But yeah, you do still have to be methodical with him. He's not RE4R, or RE4 Leon anymore. He is older. This is something I wanted. I want him to, he did feel like he had some sway to him. He was not as reactive. His gun swapping was slow. Sometimes he would just sway to the left or right randomly, and I don't know if that was the game mechanics or if that was the game, bugging out on me or something. But yeah, there was also input delay, and I, at first I put this down as a criticism, but coming back to it, especially going through the classic run, I was like, we're just going through old man Leon's input delay.
There's a buffer.
Exactly, he has to think. So you still have to be methodical. And it feels like RE4 and specifically RE4 remake with Leon. But yeah, even his melees were slower. But at times they were also very frustrating to navigate. Again, with those random sways I was talking about, different directions he was going in. And the melee, even though I didn't fully get used to it, it also took some getting used to the fluidity that you got with RE2 remake and RE4 remake. And even the previous remakes, they were gone here. And you had these arcadey-like hits with the axe. Like when an axe hit a body... I was discussing this with Steve in DMs. There's this hitch, like it hooks into the target, and that completely threw me off because I think mostly why it threw me off is because with Grace, you got the old school way of doing it. Mm-hmm. You just slashed.
Yeah, it just swipes right through.
Yeah. Whereas with Leon, for some reason, it hitched, and it led me to not using the axe as much. It also didn't have a great cleave to it. So like if you had more than, one zombie in front of you, the axe just kind of became useless for me. Yeah, so I only ever used it for stealth and finishes. And that's another thing. I remember going through Grace's playthrough, my first time through, and I did use hemolytic injectors a lot, but I remember saying to myself, oh man, I wish I had a stealth attack with the knife,
right.
That, and then you go into Leon's and immediately you have a stealth attack and a finisher.
Yep.
I was like, oh, sick. And I went through like an entire 2 locations, just murdering
Yeah.
Zombies with the stealth attack, and that's what it was pretty cool. Like shooting something twice in the head with a shotty or something, it falling back against the wall and then squishing his head on the wall. That was very cathartic. But yeah, towards the end, the game, it started to get very familiar. But that hatchet still took a backseat for me. But yeah, as I say, like it was really ironic because Grace's was so fluid, and especially when you get the Katetsu knife,
I've
you
not
can
done
just
this thing yet.
you can just get to slashing, and it was very, 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 very fun to use.
Okay.
I probably wouldn't get the Katetsu immediately if you have. I mean, this is just a tip. This is meant to be a review, but it's just a tip. I wouldn't get the Katetsu immediately, and I'd probably go for infinite ammo instead.
That's what I'm working towards, yeah.
Yeah, because I think you can have more fun with infinite ammo. You've gone through the hardship, of getting your speed runs and your bloods and your credits. You've done all the hard work, so I think your reward should be infinite ammo, not an infinite knife. But yeah, and I just want to end it as well with, I want to talk quickly about sensitivity problems when it comes to gameplay, and this spans both of them, and this is for only PC users. But I said it in the playthrough, and that is, for some reason, Capcom hid the sensitivity options really well, where you have to click on a pop out menu, and then you have to go in, and they've put deceleration and acceleration options in there that they've put all the way up to max. Turn all those down. Get rid of them. They're awful. And put up your sensitivity in the pop-up next to, I think it was camera or one of the settings, where third person and first person was.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah, that tracks, considering as a console player, immediately the first thing you do is open up that menu and turn camera wobble from 10 all the way down to 0. I don't know why that is on 10. Why is what is that? Why is it on maximum? That's absurd. But there you go. Okay, cool. So, Steve, how did you feel about Leon and playing as Leon?
Doesn't feel like much of a hot take, but I was not quite expecting Death's Door, terminally ill Leon to be the closest allegory in survival horror terms to Doom Guy. He even gets a few like Mick Gordon style bangers to rip.
Yeah, he does.
It's pretty good. He's a great use of initially in the care center is a great counterweight to the classic gameplay that obviously Grace has. I feel like I was relying too much on the hatchet because obviously I'd played 4R a little bit beforehand, and then I kind of had the feeling that parrying,
of course.
It's just the problem is in 4R you've got the Ganados, and in this, yes, some of them can be a bit crafty, like for example, hurling a chainsaw at you across the room, or having a chainsaw embedded in them and then grabbing you and insta killing you. That was
call the ref.
But generally speaking, right. Vastly inferior enemy composition is all I'm saying. So he's now at his deadliest. He's got glory kills with shotguns in mouths. He can stuff a rifle. He can spin dance around and decapitate with Requiem. And then you couple that in his own section, and it's like The Last of Us, but with Leon. And I don't know if I like it or not. He's much better as the release valve, the boss fight thing. Mechanically, he's awesome. They even found a way to basically emphasize murder as opposed to finding random bits of trinkets and treasure with these BSAA micro fabricators that are everywhere. Which is that like a Code Veronica reference with the whole smuggling of weapons thing? Don't know. Either way, the on-paper concept, though, of his latter half of the game where he's exploring Raccoon, the sequences feel a little bit too dry. While he's fun to play as and do all these hatchet things, he's just annihilating them. Yes, they might have like a throwback to the cannons or whatever in 4 Remake, and he'll have horde fights with zombies with a few guns, but the only time he really feels like he's met a match is like much later game with other people with guns. So he's a steamroller. It's fun, but it definitely shows that the action gameplay, while amazing, is probably not why I am here for the Resident Evil experience.
Interesting.
So yes, I enjoyed it very much. Did I have fun? But also definitely preferred Grace's gameplay.
Okay, cool. Before we kind of wrap up the gameplay section and start kind of moving beat for beat through locations, just one last sort of broader question for everyone then. I think most importantly, while we've kind of reviewed each segment separately, we should address the fact that these are, of course, all part of the same game. So how do we feel about that tension and that relief, the swapping potentially, in many cases, you know, everyone except Kelsey, I think, between perspectives and that kind of thing. And the flow of that, does it work having two things that are disparate or not? Steve, what did you think of the amalgamation of these two things?
It works better in the first quote unquote half of the game, definitely. Like the latter grace portion they throw at you after Leon's big adventure in Raccoon City actually feels like a much welcome return to form.
Yeah.
Mechanically, like I said, I love Leon's gameplay. It's very well. I mean, I don't know why you folks don't feel it's very arcadey. To me, it is. You're killing them for points. Your victory pose sharpening of Hatchet was happened many a time. Like, you know, and if you stand still, he even admires his work. What a nerd. You know, it's. But it's something about the gameplay loop of scrapping for supplies, sneaking around enemies. That felt more like where I was comfortable. Like, I enjoyed both, but Grace, like, it's the whole Jeremy Clarkson meme. Like, you know, I like this, but I really love sneaking around for blood samples.
Yeah. I've already said kind of where my allegiances lie on this. And in terms of pairing them together, yeah, I said that there are a couple of moments of the tension and relief thing, but it kind of, disappears towards the latter half. But I don't think that matters too much for me. This game really is just, well, we can do both, so we did, and that's okay. Like, there was a lot of conversation, including amongst us, including amongst me. It was like putting these two completely separate kind of ideologies for gameplay together feels like it could go horribly wrong. It's like, I look back right now and I go, why did I ever think that? It's just good game A and good game B, and you bounce from one to the other. Obviously, the important thing is getting the balance right, like in terms of that bouncing. And I'm very much in the same camp where it's like that Leon Raccoon City segment goes on a bit long compared to everything else. You kind of it needed breaking up in the middle or something with a Grace section, perhaps. Just because that bouncing back and forth earlier on is really good, and it kind of keeps you going. Also, speaking of the perspective front, I have played a little bit of the game with Leon in first-person perspective, and that is very funny. Very funny. You talked, Steve, about Doomslayer. That's when it really hits you at that point. Running around with a shotgun in your hands going good to yourself. No one did that. I certainly wouldn't do that. Kelsey, how did you feel about kind of the balancing of these two elements?
Without a doubt, it was my biggest question going into the game. After the director literally described it as two games in one, that was the first time in the kind of marketing cycle where I was like,
oh no.
Yeah, I don't know.
They've said that before.
Yeah. And like, for a start, dual protagonist stuff, like, great. This is Resident Evil. It's been like it since the very beginning, you know, but just traditionally it's separate scenarios, two distinct playthroughs, and here it's just jammed together in one. So cool, give me two types, that's fine. In terms of jamming it together, and my question about would they be able to pull it off, having played quite a lot of the game, I suppose I feel like they've sort of pulled it off. I mean, you said balance, Si. That is it. It's all about balance. I think it is not balanced, but I don't want to take away anything from how much fun I have had with the game, like what Steve said, because I have genuinely enjoyed playing it. When I think about those areas where it doesn't work for me outside, where the game doesn't work for me outside of things like maybe some story stuff, it mostly comes down to Leon exploring the ruins of Raccoon City. And then there is a bit of tonal whiplash as well, because you kind of go from, you know, 1 minute you've got Grace absolutely falling apart because, you know, she's kind of emotionally ruined about what happened to Emily. And then the next minute you're fighting a zombie firing a mortar at you and riding the motorbike off a collapsed building into the sky. And it's a bit like, Yeah, I'm more than happy to have a breather from the pure survival horror sections. And I think that's kind of important. One of my biggest complaint about Alien Isolation is the whole thing is survival horror, and it's like, can you have too much of that? And it's like, yeah, it can become painful. But this is Capcom trying to have their cake and eat it. The pacing of the game, my engagement in the world was definitely hampered by some of the switching, not all of it. I think, like you've said, it's more later in the game, and it's during that middle part and Raccoon City section, and it feels like that maybe that Raccoon City section was maybe supposed to be more action packed than it was, because it isn't that action packed. You've got the sequences that you do, but there is a lot of running around doing not much, and I do wonder. We don't know loads about the development of this game, but from what I understand, it is out later than it was supposed to be. And I do wonder if there was either stuff cut or unfinished. Maybe more was supposed to go on in the Raccoon City section, because, it definitely feels that is where the game, it doesn't fall down. Like, we're sort of talking very openly about it. It's just that's the part that didn't really work for me, despite how Leon's gameplay itself functions fine. Did it work for me? Does it work? Sort of. In the same way that Chris's section really disrupts Village right at the end, like it just did not need that bit in Village, and it's fun to do, but I don't know. It just makes it a bit wobbly. And then it's more of it because the gameplay styles are competing with each other. So and the Raccoon City section, it was at times quite boring and not scary. And I will say, one boss fight notwithstanding. So they took a risk. It's fine, I suppose. I can see lots of other people enjoyed it. I've kind of tuned into a little bit of what other people have been saying, and I think the general consensus is everyone thinks that part drags, and so there could have been some better balancing. For the most part, it's balanced well, but I'm still playing it, and I'll play it more times. It's just that is one of the things that I think stops this from being. I've seen some people call this game a masterpiece, and I think it's not that. And this is a big bugbear I have with it. It's that hour. You can speed run through it, but if you're playing it as it's supposed to, that might take you 2 hours to do that section, and it's a bit of a slog. So sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. To kind of sit on the fence, I suppose.
Yes. James, what did you think of the sort of juggling act of the characters, the play styles, that kind of thing?
It's hard to juggle two perspectives like this and make them feel like they're their own thing. But I do think Capcom have done a good job here.
Yeah, for sure.
Grace and Leon's main campaigns, I think they're long enough that when you switch to the other, for me, it felt fresh and a bit of a break from the other one.
Yeah.
So when I went from Grace the first time to, Leon main, and then I went to Grace and then Leon main again, it was like, okay, it was nice. It was like I was playing two games in one. And that was nice. It was fresh. I also feel like the pacing was pretty good for me. The teasing at the beginning of Leon, and then even towards the end, because it went like there's a word for it. Starts off really quick, then slows, then gets quick towards the end. Like a roller coaster. It started off with, Grace main, and then you get like little bits of Leon, and then it would ramp up with Leon, and Leon was the big pinnacle halftime show, kind of here's your reward to kill 5 zombies in Raccoon City. But I do think that it was meant to be bigger. I think that Raccoon City was meant to be bigger.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Like, I don't want to talk about locations, too much, but because the variety is bad in Leon sections. But yeah, I still liked it. And when I went through Classic, I think I got through that. I think it took me like 3.5 hours to get through East with Leon.
Right, same. Hours. Hours.
Yeah, and then with him on Classic, I think it took me under an hour, like for my second run. So it can definitely be shortened, and you can definitely like kind of have a pacing with it. But I think there is one section in particular where it bothered me. But yeah, I'll talk about that later. But yeah, overall, I liked how the perspective, because that was a big concern for all of us, wasn't it? It's like, how are you going to do this? But I think they did do it well. They didn't do it perfectly, but I think they did it well.
Yeah.
I think it's safe to say the Capcom, if they hadn't already kind of committed to it, considering the reaction to this game, I would be shocked if we don't see this again with the next mainline installment. Like, they have now proved that they can, in fact, do horror and action. And some games are going to be balanced differently to others. Sometimes it's going to work better than others. But I actually, I think we're here now, and I think this is probably what the next few Resident Evil games are potentially going to be like. And I welcome it, frankly. Let's talk about locations then. We teased it a bunch. Let's kind of go through the game. Location to location, starting from the beginning to the end. There's about I've divvied it up into about 7 sections or so. Some obviously much longer than others. I don't think we'll collectively have a lot to say about the Wrenwood hotel at the beginning of the game, but it's certainly worth talking about the Grace opening section, the city streets outside, and then the hotel itself, which is a little bit of a prologue for the game. As I said earlier, on repeat playthroughs, this bit, I mean, at least you can kind of speed through it on repeat playthroughs, but this is certainly the most linear bit. This is very much just a atmosphere building exercise to get you in, which is, again, very Resident Evil 7. So it had that kind of storyline linearity problem, and even today I find myself playing 7 over many games in the series, repeat playthroughs. So whilst it's kind of irritating, I'm sure I'll just live with it. I think that this is one of the areas in the game that makes great use of darkness. The care center as well. It's got a real vibe to it, with all like the broken down, burned out hallway and stuff like that. The lore drops at the beginning instantly got me excited, and I said, oh, it's going to be a game of this stuff. And it kind of is a game, as we said earlier, of like the Leo Point meme, look, we did that thing. But I was expecting like the kinds of points were a bit more overt, whereas in this place, like, immediately you get, here's a list of Raccoon City syndrome victims. One of them is Michael Warren, 90 years old, who died in a care home. So, he did get out of Raccoon City, former mayor of the town. I thought that's a really neat, like, that's what I like in Files. Just, I know it's cheap, but every time it happens, we all enjoy seeing Alyssa's name in RE7, for example, and being like, oh my God, it's that character. And Stoneville as well being pointed out. I was like, when the hell, what was the last time we got a Stoneville reference? The neighboring town to Raccoon. So that stuff really worked on me. But for the intro, the hotel's great, but that little bit in the city streets at the beginning is the highlight of the prologue of the game. It was so weird to see human NPCs just wandering around, traffic going by, all the rain coming down. It's like trailered, basically, like it's designed to be like, look at this in the trailer, because it has no impact on the gameplay or anything. You just wander forward and then you're out of it. But man, it looked so good. And that is, I think, going to be a memorable visual from this game for years to come, is that little New York City, Detroit kind of esque section. Really cool. Really cool. Steve, what did you make of Wrenwood?
Well, I really like you said, the opening street second. It feels like so visually stunning and almost like you're leaving the real world. Like, as you go from this really populated, really like lively street, and honestly, so compared to some parts of the other game, it actually feels almost more photoreal. Like, there's the point just before you enter the Renwood building itself. Like, you look up at the skybox, and like my partner who's with me, it's midnight, it's launch day. Steve, why does this look like you're watching a movie? Like, okay, fair enough. Like, as a visual tour de force, the outside streets of Renwood, lovely. It was not totally like ignored by the fact that the first room we go into properly is a kitchen.
Yep.
Nor is it the fact that the first two things you interact with are a fridge and a drawer, and they have grody stuff in them. Capcom, I get it. You still love RE7. Thank you. This opening sequence took me a good, like, before any plot stuff actually happens, I was too busy poking around corners. After reading that file, just like you're like, Michael Warren! Leonardo DiCaprio, click fingers beam. I'm like, what else is there to discover? Poke around. I must have been in the foyer after the bar for a good 20 minutes just looking at this like bin with needles in going, someone was here. What's going on?
Did you also pop for Grill 14 in the street?
Yeah.
I did as well.
The door locks behind Grace early in the intro. Like, where's the body gone? It's not here. I'm going to go look back outside. You can go back out onto the street. Like, leave. You can't leave. You have to finish the rest of it, but you can go back out the building.
That's funny.
Like, oh, okay. It was a fun little like jaunt. It's a shame it literally is like fundamentally a linear corridor, but it's a very atmospheric place, especially when you get into the corridor before the bedroom. That almost feels like it's been ripped out of 2 remake or something. Silent Hill 2 remake rather, like dilapidated, drowned
big time.
corridor. It feels much more horror themed in this horror video game we're talking about than usual. It's strong vibes. It's just not there very long. And again, it feels like Capcom flexing a little. It's just a shame there isn't much plot relevance outside of the initial, like, obviously it's where we see a main character get murdered, and then the whole thing kicks off. We talk about the city street section as well, because that whole
for sure,
that whole pitched battle on the streets of Renwood as Victor's done his whole injection gun thing. One of the most atmospheric moments at the start of, I think, like Kelsey said it earlier, like of an actual outbreak scenario, like emerging around you, like the level of panic and the rain, and it all comes together, and it's only again walking forwards in a street, beating the crap out of monsters. For a linear sequence, it really was like, cool. Chef's kiss. I'm on board with this.
Yeah, it's one of those things that it's weirdly like. It's basically, as we've said, Tall Oaks, Resident Evil 6. They even have like the car crash thing that happens right in front of you and stuff like that. But for some reason, it just kind of works in this context. It's not too ridiculous, I suppose. It's not you running across the tops of exploding trucks and jumping into a helicopter and then mashing X and all this nonsense. Perhaps is why. But it was cool. The panic setting in was great. And for the record, Leon can get hit by one of those cars in the crash. I don't think he takes any damage from it, or at least I didn't when I tried it. I promise I tried, and I didn't do it accidentally. James, you've talked a little bit about the linearity in Grace's sections, but how do you feel about Renwood and Renwood writ large, I guess?
Yeah, I'll talk about, just because it's fresh, we talk about the street level with Leon.
Sure.
Quickly. I don't know if I should put this in the story or not, but it's just a quick question. It's like, is Renwood now an outbreak point? Because
he does say, doesn't he, where it was like, we need to quarantine this area or get it locked down or something like that. I imagine they probably got it under control because it was very quick, but interesting question. Who knows?
Like, I mean, it looked pretty wild. Like, is it going to be another, fake nuclear bomb? I don't know. But
the crater next to the crater.
Right, yeah. Now they're twin cities in more ways than one.
Ouch.
But
these poor people.
But yeah, Redwood Hotel, it's a fantastic introduction to the game. The burnt out husk of a location to ease you into the horrors, like that came afterwards. So much detail, as you've all pointed out as well. But it also felt very lived in. Like, there was a sadness, and I'm going to go over that later on as well. when we get to Raccoon City, but going through not just Grace's sadness and what you learn, but fires, arson is awful. It's an awful thing to happen, and like I know that's not what but. So like an entire, there's a lot of history in this place. You can see it, right? And it's like a brand new location. This is a place we'd never heard from before, but it looks so lived in, and like they've done such a fantastic job with world building. Just this tiny place that you can probably look around that location for a long time and just see new details. You won't be able to see like much more than just squiggles, like Kels and I were talking about earlier on, but yeah, it's still a fantastic introduction to the game. I do like linearity when we're just starting a game. You need, my brain needs, as little as possible to introduce me to the game and what the tutorials are. And it did a great job doing that. Renwood did.
Kelsey, thoughts on the opening area of the game?
Yeah, I'll be quick because you've all covered exactly what I think. You're all spot on. It's the funnest part is obviously right at the start. I mean, it's just like, yo, I heard you like references, so I put a reference within your reference and stuff like this, like on that street. It's the restaurant, Dolby beer. There's the Wolf branded cigarettes. There's like all this stuff is really cool. Mr. X cosplayer walks past you right straight away as well to sort of put you on edge, and it's really, really cool. And I loved walking into the kitchen, the worms crawling around, the burnt place. You've all said it. It's like something terrible happened here. Superb environmental storytelling to start us off. And I was giddy as we started the game there. And that whole section is good with the other police officer and the way he turns. And just as you're getting to grips with the game, I think it's a really solid introduction. And then as I mentioned, the Outbreak stuff is good, and like you said, Si, it's what RE6 wanted to do, and it is just ever so slightly paced back and grounded, and it works so much better. It's arcadey, but not to the sort of 10th degree, and I loved the whole opening sequence. And loads of little references, lots of little lore stuff right at you from the beginning of the game, and it's all very good stuff.
Cool. Well, let's talk about my star pupil of the game, I think, and I don't think I'll be alone for the praise that I have for Rhodes Hill Care Centre. Seeing talk online that this is one of the best locations in the game, like the reviews that came out beforehand kind of said it's right up there, and I was like, that's a really bold thing to say in a series with Resident Evil that has the Spencer Mansion and the RPD twice. And they're both great in the originals and the remakes. And in my notes, when I wrote my notes a couple of days ago, I don't think it's quite grand enough for me to be there right now. But even in those 2 days, like the time I've had away from the game, I look back on it and go, it's definitely in the conversation. It is so good. Whoever designed this place, I've just tip of the hat, shake your hand, whatever it is, they have somehow managed to make a location that feels realistically connected in the way that all the rooms kind of slot together, generally speaking. But also, you're wandering around like a maze and doing the traditional thing that I love in all games like this, where you open a door and you go, oh my God, I'm back here. Okay, great. Now I understand. Now I know how to plot my route a little bit better, stuff like that. I had several of those moments. I love that it's that multi-tiered kind of area where things kind of weave around a bit. And the way that it unfolds with they could have come up with something slightly more original than just the RE2 wristband thing again. But as a location, I think it's sensational. So big fan of this. The zombies, we'll talk about it a bit later when we talk about enemies towards the end of this extravaganza. But the zombies with their personalities really, really help as well. They give the location even more character. If you're in a corner watching one of the guys walk by, whether it's the chef or a zombie in a lab coat or whatever, the maid maybe, a patient wandering around with his IV bag, you're just like, yeah, I can see it. I can almost see what this place probably was like when it was lit up and functional, which would have been, an hour before you got here. Like, the outbreak literally happens between Grace and Leon basically arriving. Yeah, really, really, really big fan. And also I want to shout out, I talked about the darkness in Renwood. The darkness in this sort of, when you first arrive at Rhodes Hill as Grace and you're wandering around, running away from the girl and stuff. When she gets out of this contraption that she's being hung upside down and you walk down the corridor, the first door in front of you, you flip the light switch, it doesn't work. And you're like, okay, well, maybe I'll just peer in. Immediately, I played this game on an OLED the first time. I was like, nope, not going in there. Cannot. I can't see a damn thing. And it was great. Like, yeah, big fan of that. I think, yeah, Rhodes Hill, probably the best location in the game for me. It will be, I just talked about the city streets being like a memorable visual. This will be the thing I think of first when I think of Resident Evil Requiem, which is remarkable for a game that's reveal trailer. Its big hook was we're going back to Raccoon City, and yet this is the location that will 100% come to mind every time. Kelsey, what do you think of Rhodes Hill?
Yeah, it's so good. It's strongest location of the game for me. It's not even close, really. Like you just said, that first part after Grace has woken up and you're kind of getting your bearings and discovering where you are. There's so much going on with, you've got darkness, you've got red lights, you've got green lights, you've got the thunder and lightning going off outside that's short-circuiting the lights. There is this absolutely ridiculous moment where you flick on the light switch and it turns the light on at the end of the hall and there's like a horse statue stood there.
Oh,
but
yeah.
you don't quite know what it is, or at least I didn't. I was just like, what the hell is that? And it's your mind is playing tricks on you, and it's just, yeah, the opening section of that, so good. This location, it's got it all. Offices, a bar, kitchens, bathrooms, medical wards, a parking garage, like a mini casino parlor. There's a GIF here on the Discord as well. Like, it's just, it pulls so much from like quintessential Resident Evil stuff and Resident Evil 1 stuff in such a huge way. It's just tick box after tick box. We got a main hall, the doors being unlocked with crests, crests in resin. And it's, yeah, it's so much love for this section. I think that in the way that the gameplay for Grace gave me what I wanted from Resident Evil, this as a location gave me what I wanted in so many ways, with the puzzles, with, like you said, going through the doors and ending up back somewhere else. It's so good. And I did something that I haven't done for a long time in a Resident Evil game. I found myself, so I'm using the map a lot to get around and looking at the map and, okay, I've got to go there and got to go there. But I was doing this thing where I was, you said, Si, it feels so realistic. And I was studying the layout, but then imagining it as a functioning care centre and the staff moving from this area to this area. And yet, mostly, it all makes perfect sense in the way that it's laid out. There's some gameplay stuff going on, but I was just imagining it filled with the people working there and the stuff that was going on. And I was so invested in this location. And yeah, to kind of front load the game with this is really smart because, yeah, it's probably the best section of the game. And I loved working my way around it with everything that came with it, with those puzzles, with the enemies, which we'll talk more about soon. But from an atmosphere point of view, and making Grace be the first one that you're kind of exploring it with was the right choice. And yeah, it's like you say, maybe not quite there with the mansion and RPD, because it is possibly lacking a little bit of the scale of those things. But
yeah, absolutely, sure.
In terms of character and what is there, I don't think there's a bad section in this. There's maybe, there's places you don't have to go as well. There's quote unquote hidden rooms or optional rooms that have got a lot going for them. And, and if you do go in there, there's a good reason to go. You can find a new hip pouch, or you can find a new charm and stuff in these separate rooms that you can completely overlook. But from a gameplay perspective and a storytelling perspective and a world building perspective, it just nails it. And the care center is, Rhodes Hill. I don't know, has Rhodes Hill come up before? I think it apparently hasn't it, in a previous game?
There is a sign in the subway in Outbreak that just says Rhodes Hill, this way or whatever.
That's really cool. But it's that name now, like you say, Rhodes Hill. It's up there. It's that's now it's solidified itself among the big locations of Resident Evil, and they know what they were doing and they knew what they were pulling on, and they've, in terms of evoking all that stuff, they've smashed it. And there's loads that you do in this section, loads of enemies, as I've said, and loved it.
Steve, thoughts on RHCC, as it will come to be known?
Rhodes Hill Chronic Care Centre. As a functional place, I dig it. I'm salty about the fact you can't go back into the first section where Grace survived the girl. You kind of seals away. I get it for narrative reasons and all that. Generally speaking, I generally enjoyed it. The exploration is obviously, unfortunately, a bit linear, especially to start with. But as an actual place, it's second best mansion in the RE engine. Well, mansion allegory. The RPD isn't really a mansion, is it? It beats the Baker Estate. Yes, it beats Castle Dimitrescu. All that stuff. It's like an actual, real, tangible thing. It helps that we get Leon's entry into it. He walks in through the front door. He gets taken to a ward into basically a glorified trap. And I like how it slots together. The murder basement underneath, I'm assuming we're talking about later, but the upper areas, obviously, it feels almost like they've taken the Spencer mansion and made it pristine. What would that area have been like if it was still in operation, clean and tidy, mostly tidy? Obviously the maids are doing the best, but they fell a bit by the wayside. So overall speaking, as an actual location in the Resident Evil universe, this is surprisingly grounded. We've even got a established helipad in the back. We've got the whole hidden basement stuff and the labs. But I kind of dig that you have to go through the service areas first. You have to go through the restaurant, then you need to go past the toilets, then the the cook, then the toilets, then the restaurant, before you get to any of the really gruesome stuff when you actually get to explore. Yeah. And then immediately get one-shotted by some idiot who's got an IV bag. They're just deadly, apparently. It's fun. It's fun. And there's places for all the people at management and staff. So, yes, generally speaking, good location, very good environmental storytelling, and it actually explains why some of these crazy people are as crazy as they are.
You mentioned the basement there. We will talk about it separately just because I think it's big enough to talk about on its own. But the fun thing about this, and Kelsey talked about optional stuff, I didn't realise this until my third playthrough. You can go in the basement without getting the other two quartz. You could go there first if you really wanted to, I think. On your first playthrough, I think the idea being that it's the third one is because as the second one, you get, I feel like I'm using very non-specific terms. There's 3 puzzle boxes that you have to open. By the way, loved that as a puzzle and all the different ways you're meant to open them. One of them being the pencil sketch, the one that only gives you a couple of them and you have to guess the rest and stuff like that. That one that you have to guess the rest and use the corrosive on, it has the solution to the organ puzzle as a piece of paper slipped in there. And you need that in order to get to the third one. But if you already know the solution to the organ puzzle, as I did by this point, I went there, went into area 2 before I even went upstairs, went down in the basement, brought Emily up, and then had to sit her down somewhere and go upstairs to get the last bit and get the corrosive and stuff. So you can kind of sequence break it in that way, which is kind of neat. That's the thing you can do, because of course after the basement you do come back up and the location is fully explorable still. So that was really neat. James, what do you think of Rhodes Hill? Are you as glowingly positive as we are?
It's pretty good. I do want to... Castle Dimitrescu was mentioned there.
Yep.
It's mid. It's mid. It's mid.
It might be mid, but the Chronic Care Center takes inspiration from it. So...
Interesting.
It does a little bit.
If you look around that place, it has florets. The architecture is very similar to Dimitrescu.
That's true.
But there is a reason for that, and I'll go into that later on with story. But yeah, I agree though. Like it is a, if we're going to put quantifiables on it, it is better than Dimitrescu.
He says through gritted teeth.
No, but I mean, you know, even in Village, Dimitrescu isn't really the best location. Like I feel like the village itself is probably
I'd agree there actually.
But yeah, it like I remember kind of bumping into, like, going into the chronic care center, and for some reason I didn't think I was going to be there that long. I don't know why. Like, there was just this feeling in me. I was like, oh, okay, so we've taken out, you know, we're not really taken out, but we've avoided Marie, the girl, and now we're just going through, like, I don't know why I just didn't expect, like, to be there very long. Maybe it was because of the Leon section. It kind of broke it up, you know, and then I went back in and I was like, oh, okay, so we're just going to have another quick section here, because I might have been familiar at that point. It's like, oh, is this what we're going to be doing? You know? But yeah, but when I learned, oh, I'm in here now, when I looked at the map and I was like, oh.
Yeah, I had a very similar thing, because the first couple of areas you do bounce between them quite quickly.
Yeah.
But this is when you're in the game, isn't it?
Exactly, yeah. Like, and it was not this is not a complaint. Like, yeah, as I say, like, a lot familiar with, a lot familiar there. The florets, the architecture, the grand hall. Capcom once again loving their sprawling manners. I'd love to know history about this place. If it was always a chronic care center, because Capcom they also love doing that, where it has something will have a previous history. Yeah, and there's, like Steve said earlier, there's a lot of environmental storytelling here as you go around this place. And Si, you mentioned Light and Darkness earlier on. I think this is something we mentioned in a very early trailer about the use of Light and Darkness, and the fact we kind of wanted a bit of it in Requiem. And I remember the relief of exiting East Wing into the main hall.
Yeah.
And the relief of the light blues and the white light come down. There's a lot of relief that went through me. I was like, oh, okay, I'm safe now. You know, those, I'm sure it was meant, but, like, you know, that's pretty incredible. It's just a small thing like that. You know, we were talking about, we spoke about RE5 at one point, and the beta build for that, and Light and Darkness being used. And although it wasn't actively used here, like, they've used darkness so well. Even if you put your brightness all the way up, because I tried to do that and the game still says no. It's like, no, you're not having it. You're stuck in the darkness. Yeah, and it was just very, very calming. Plus, it's like, you know, my colors, that light blue and white, I freaking love those color schemes together. Yeah, and I want to point out as well that you not only do you not go back to the Marie section, but you also don't go through the Leon section again. Like, you don't go through the point, like, they teased that first area in the trailer a bunch. And you never go in there again after you go through there, because it's right next to the. So it's right next to where Grace comes out, where Marie is, and then Leon comes through the gated area. And that's like the entrance, but you never actually go through the front door, like in this place. But yeah, it's definitely a place that's going to stick with me. A really fantastic zone, and they've done. Yeah, and Kel said earlier, like, they. And so you said, like, they all have kind of jobs. Everybody in the place has a job, and you hear from them as you're going around. Like, I remember listening to the first light on guy as you're going through the West Wing past the chef, and he's just clicking the light. He's going, light on.
I love that guy.
Light on. And I was like, oh, surely he's preoccupied with turning his light on. Surely I could just walk by him. Like, No, the light on was not his priority. Eating my face was. But yeah, it was great. Oh, also, it's like seeing that maid in the freaking bathroom, that crapped me up. I didn't expect that when I was going by to get a lockpick, a simple lock, and I heard a kind of a faint kind of yelling in the toilet area. And then I just opened, and the lady just started smacking on the mirror. Crap me! I never went back there again for the entire playthrough until the end. I don't know why she scared me so much.
if you insta kill anybody near like a room or so away from her, she goes and she gets angry at the mess. Like she,
she does?
Like, gets lured away by more blood. Yeah, she also scrubs you in the face instead of biting you.
I've been grabbed by her. That's funny.
Those IV bag guys, why are they so tanky? They are so tanky. Like, you know, I don't know, they must, they take so many hits.
Okay, cool. Let's move on to the second half of Rhodes Hill then, which is the underground basement with all of its various prison cells and, as we've mentioned, the meat grinder and stuff like that. A little diversion through Rhodes Hill, which, as I said, most players, I mean, on a first run, you're guaranteed to go here last just because of needing to know the puzzle solutions. But yes, how do we feel about the Rhodes Hill basement section? James, let's start with you.
In contrast, I think for me, the scope gets really squished here. This place is quite forgettable for me.
Interesting, yeah, that's fair.
Like I actually completely, until I saw the list and then I went through the classic yesterday where I went through this section, I actually completely forgot this was a part of the game. I still love them. They have their place and I still think they're good. But they felt very transitional. And extremely linear. I think there was only one point where I was like, oh, I have a choice here, and that's with the joint plugs.
Right.
And even then it was like, oh, okay, it's still pretty still pretty linear in that respect. I kind of figured it out quite quickly. But yeah, I don't know if it was a great way to end. I don't think it was a great way to conclude Rhodes Hill. You know, because
that's fair.
Rhodes Hill, but then again, Rhodes Hill was such a huge pedestal, to try and climb or hill to climb. But it still does a good job, and I was still scared. But Marie, she still felt very linear during that section. I kind of knew it, even in my first playthrough. I think you can hear it in the playthrough when I go through it. I kind of knew I wasn't really in danger.
Yeah.
Most of the time throughout that entire section. The atmosphere was great, but there was just something missing. And I can't quite point at it because the darkness was there. We had the darkness. You had your great transitions to light and darkness there. There was a lot that was gross. I mean, you have a freaking machine that just minced people, but yeah, there was something missing. I don't know if you guys if you're going to speak on it and if you know what I'm talking about, but yeah, I can't really put my finger on it.
Do you know, yeah, in my notes, I do have that it's just kind of all right. Like, it reminds me a little bit of the caves in Remake, which is kind of always a bit of a choke point of like, oh, here we go. Let's just get through this bit. And in the original RE1 as well, perhaps more so. But it doesn't have the same kind of problem for me. I'm happy to get through this. I think that the power socket puzzle thing, it is extremely linear when you know the sort of order of things you need to do, but it does give it a nice pace for me and a nice flow. The positives for this area is that on my first playthrough, it really added to the mystery of just what the hell was going on, and it, I have a lot of questions at this point, which I kind of liked having the questions. Yeah, it's all right, but yeah, it kind of fits in that like caves, sewers section that Resident Evil games often have, where it's just like, okay, let's just got to hit the same objectives and get out. I don't think I particularly found the girl threatening or Marie threatening in this area either, but you do have to deal more likely than not, if not guaranteed, with at least 1 or 2 blister heads down here, which is, panic-inducing when you're playing as Grace, certainly, especially, again, on that first run. It's all right. It's decent. It's not bad.
Yeah, I will say, because I realized I was quite negative there, but I do want to say, like, there was an anxiety in me when I was going through the halls and you just see the bodies.
Mm-hmm.
There was just bodies on the ground, and you knew they were going to turn into something.
Yeah, for sure.
Later on.
Kelsey, what do you make of the basement of Rotil?
It's the worst water park I've ever been to in my life. I want my money back.
How many stars?
Yeah, -5 stars. That water flume into the vat of blood. No, yeah, got some of it in my mouth. Don't want to go there again. When you first get literally dropped into it, I was like, oh, this feels like a difficulty spike moment, and am I going to have trouble here? And it turned out being easier than I expected it to be, which is fine. But like you said, the bodies on the floor, I didn't really use the injector much in my playthrough, but this is a section where I did clear a couple of those out the way, because I was like, all right, which one of you's getting up in a minute? Because it's kind of signposting it. It's like, yeah, they're probably going to get up at some point. But this section is, there's fewer places to run during this section. So if you do find yourself in a pinch, then you might be in trouble. I managed to get through it without too much trouble, but what it offers, I think, is really good. I mean, you kind of have the classic puzzle. You've got to find your bits and unlock something and power the door at the end, or power the lift. But at the same time, which is a very throwback, but then now you've got the modern stalker enemies here as well to make life difficult for you. So it kind of brought those two things together from Resident Evil games, which I really, really liked. And there's a load. This is the gross out section with the meat grinder and the bodies, and it's just all this stuff about blood. It's grimy and sweaty. The boiler section. It does it. There's a couple of ways to do this, because the 2 playthroughs I've done it in a couple of different orders.
Interesting.
It's you don't have to get like a sort of, I don't know what you would call them. I don't know if they're numbered, but yeah, I did it 2 different ways, and also like the first time I didn't get caught out by. You can get trapped if you go in the boiler room the wrong way. Anyway, I'm sort of getting lost. There's a couple of ways to do it, and which I've enjoyed. And it's as a contained little section. It's nice. It's a slightly different change of pace. I was on edge when you first take the plug out and the power goes off and the girl drops down, and then you're there. There is a cell you can slide into to get out the way. That's quite cool, and you've got to hide and stay still. And it produces a lot of really cool visuals because she's often at the end of a corridor with some great, and it's almost completely in silhouette. We haven't really talked about the way she avoids light and stuff, but that's a cool little thing that the game does. I liked the section. I agree. I think it offers more than the caves. I really don't like the caves. I thought this was fun because...
Oh, yeah, this is... for what it's worth, I think that comparison was a little bit unkind, certainly. I do like this segment.
And yeah, I think it's that the body horror stuff and the blood stuff that I was disgusted, when you see them all dropping into the pool and stuff like that. It's... Yeah, it's... and the meat grinder bit is... I mean, it is hilarious and it's so good. I just kept, you pop them in the knees and it's like, oh, bye. And you just see them get sucked in. The noises they make and the way they just kind of flap around is, it was horrific and horrible, but kind of fun at the same time. And then we've also got another massive Resident Evil 2 reference with the fan and obviously the little thing you've got to go through that Ada goes through. It's like, there's all that kind of stuff going on. And the way you're like, right, I need to get this plug in this socket and get this light on. Is the girl going to appear? Is she not? And the game does, some of that linearity is here, but the game does its best to tease you, I think, and the way she kind of drops in is definitely made me jump and frightened me. So I had a lot of fun with this section. I felt dirty. I love the the final bit we have to make a sprint for the elevator, and it's like, oh, she's gonna come, and then there she is, and she's swiping. It's just, yeah, all very kind of, you know, heart in your mouth stuff. And I've seen, obviously the raccoon section got a lot of criticism, but I've seen some people be quite critical about this section as well, but I didn't really feel that. I liked it. It's not pretty, but it definitely offered something. And I felt, whereas running around Rhodes Hill, I could basically just turn and run and get back to the safety of the main hall. There isn't really anywhere to go here, and if you do mess up, you might get caught out. So, I really liked it. It was good.
Good. As speaking of the ending of this section, two things real quick. The elevator bit feels like a reference to the 2002 movie, doesn't it, with the decapitation elevator, where it's like, I don't know if that was deliberate or not, but I will say the bait and switch of that segment was expertly done. I played this with the size guy sat next to me, and we both had this, oh my God, are we actually going to have a protagonist lose a foot?
I thought she had.
I know, is that an RE7 reference? But obviously she's not, moldy, so she's not going to have the same kind of impact on her that it does with Ethan. That is to say, none. I was like, that would have been a real shock. But
it's the performance.
Of course,
it's the noises she was making, the crying. I was like, oh my God, the foot's gone.
Genuinely thought they'd done it. So expertly done, certainly. Steve, what did you make of the basement?
Yes, on repeat plays, it can feel a bit too rote and linear. But the first time through, I honestly felt like I was in somewhere between Revelations 2 and Alien Isolation or Amnesia the Bunker, where it's you versus overpowered adversary that can scurry you about. And I really dug it. Like, the fact that, yes, there's a handful of zombies that might get back up, but they normally got saw away by a quick crafty injection ahead of time. Or just like, I'm going to prod you with a knife. If you get up, I'm going to stab you a lot with a knife. It was that was all being prepared. But yeah, the fact you could shoo her away, and like, especially on insanity mode where she takes like 4 or 5 rounds to actually shoo away, it could be tense. Like, and obviously it's the torture chambers. It's the literal grindhouse of the facility where they're mulching people, poor people with this Raccoon City syndrome or mutated virus strain or whatever they're doing. And it's gross. It's uncomfortable. I kind of dig it. As dingy, scary basements in the Resident Evil universe go, it had a purpose, and I can get with that. I still will. Yeah, like you've already said about the elevator scene, and it was like that shunk followed by Grace screaming and whimpering. I was very much in the same, oh God, we've lost the foot, haven't we? Like the hairs on the back of your neck kind of strength up, and it's that level of disquiet and discomfort, wonderful. Otherwise, it's a shame it is just prison cells and a big mulcher. Like, if it wasn't for the atmosphere of being stalked in this place and seeing that grinder, it is unfortunately just a set of cells with some fuses. But that does a lot, evidently, because I enjoyed it and I still don't hate it on reruns. So it is basically like, all right, okay, you've done the girl once, now do it again, but you have a big gun.
And it's obviously, Rhodes Hill is quite a cramped space in general, especially that first bit. But it's like that, or it's like, okay, you feel really boxed in, especially with all that darkness. I do think that I've been a bit unkind to it, but I think it's because it lives in the shadow of the Rhodes Hill proper as well, certainly. It's all right, it's fine, I've got no problem with it. And now, reading the file New Researcher's Notebook from Resident Evil Requiem, William J, who you can find on Instagram at William_J87.
Today was unbelievable. I somehow got invited to the renowned Oswald E. Spencer's lab. I heard rumors about the place, but to think Ark has been underneath me this entire time. I was given a quick tour of the attached orphanage too. The children there really creeped me out. They all have nasty surgical scars across their heads, and if you meet their gaze, they'll greet you with this unsettling giggle. Apparently, they are used for human experiments. The whole thing gives me goosebumps. To have built a place like this, Spencer must have been more unhinged than any of us imagined. Sensational. The prospect of being able to freely experiment on those kids sends shivers of anticipation throughout my tired body. It's all so exciting. For now, I'll start by making the rounds at the orphanage tonight. It seems like the newbie always gets stuck with the boring jobs. Hopefully I can wrap up the tedious bits quickly so I can prepare for the real fun tomorrow.
I'm going to group 3 locations together now just because they're all quite short. The sort of exterior of Rhodes Hill, which is Gideon's underground private lab sort of section. We have the chapel with Leon. And then we have, I think it's the water treatment facility, which is the showdown with Marie / the girl. Let's put all those together because they're all quite brief little sections. Steve, what did you think about this little trio of locations?
Fun. I really did appreciate that we had the full James Bond spy lab sequence, followed by a giant flask and room filled with zombies. I thought, oh my god, this feels very before Endgame. And then you're looking at the walls, gas canister. We go gas rounds. Is Sherwin going to get gas rounds? It was that level of moment. And honestly, it's not that, but it is kind of like evocative of anti-BOW gas. And oh my god. Never has throwing an extinguisher on the floor felt quite so satisfying. But no, it was genuinely a fun bit. Again, obviously, you just basically do 2 loops and you're out of that little lab. But what you see visually is like, again, it's a nightmare factory, and he's refining blood for reasons that aren't fully explained clearly, at least not to me. The chapel sequence with Leon had a lot of fun, reminded me of Ada's sniping section in RE6. I also tried to shoot the bell to no avail because Remake 4 has ruined me. I'm like, what happens if I call for bingo? Will it go away? And then obviously that crescends with Resident Evil 0. It's like, showdown in the power factory. Only you now are Rebecca and there is no Billy, but you have the handgun. So it's a fun, and I'm glad it's not too drawn out puzzle that it can do in various ways, where flick the switches, get out, and then blaster. It's fun. It feels more set piecey. I mean, the whole sequence really is set piecey. Also introduces us to a really important character. I'm sure, Harry Reid. Not shady in the slightest.
Yeah. I didn't realise he had a surname.
He was a leaf on the wind, and watch how he soared. It was fun for what it was, but unfortunately, this is where it starts to go to set piece mode. So
Yeah, I genuinely I had no idea what his surname was. First Aid Spray editor Cannell, I think, was the first person that I saw coined the name Harry Copter, which I was just like, that's his name now.
Holy!
The surprising lack of betrayal from Harry Copter, certainly.
He didn't get much of a chance, did he?
Well, this is true. Maybe he was ready to fly you away somewhere. But we'll never know. They're all fine in their own way. I thought the lab was more intriguing than the answers we actually got out of it, which is to say essentially nothing. Like, you don't actually learn anything, but it is a cool visual. I mentioned before, I thought that the chapel segment as Leon it's a bit RE6-y, but it's fun. Like fighting the big monster thing, little mini boss. Even that design is a bit Resident Evil 6, really, isn't it? And then same with you, Steve. The water treatment facility is Resident Evil 0 coded to hell. It's just like this is just the end of 0, except without the meat tent of a boss fight. It's fine. It's a bit of a cool Grace empowerment moment. I really liked, this is maybe more story, but not really. I really liked that little cutscene of her leaving Emily to rest, and then she walks out and she's got like this face of determination. Like, she's gone through Rhodes Hill. She's going to have her face off with her personal antagonist here with the goal. I thought that was nice. It is very much the set piece section of the game to break up kind of the two bigger areas. And it works. It's fine. They're all nice and punchy, and they all supply something a little bit different to the experience. So I'm kind of fine with all of them. James, what did you make of the set piece trio?
Yeah, I like that you brought up the Grace, because this section is where I loved Grace anyway, but this section is where I really fell in love with Grace. Mm-hmm. Like, where she turns to him and says, "Are you lying to me?"
Yeah.
I was like, oh, That is,
Yeah.
you know, what's their name? The person who does
Harry.
the voice for
the voice actor. I don't.
Oh, Angela St. Albano, I believe.
Angela, right? The way she's delivering lines in this game is incredible. Like, you know, from the beginning where, like, you know, she's pleading to her mother, you know, in the flashback, to are you lying to me? You know, it's just the line she throws are just incredible. The thing, I remember when she said that line, and I just because it culminated because, like, she has big gun. You know, she knows she has big gun.
Yeah.
You know, and I was like, holy crap, is she gonna kill this man if she sees, you know, that he has a bite? And I really wanted to know, because I just would have said, lift up your leg, lift up your pant leg. All right, I was expecting that, but unfortunately we didn't get that. But yeah, incredible moment from her. But I mean, this is more talking about characters. But that was the thing I loved most about this section, was the growth of Grace. Yeah, and then we got into the actual lab, and I squeed a bit when I saw the Sanguinis Venus wine.
Oh yeah. Absolutely.
I can never remember the full name of it.
That's what it's called.
Sanguinis Venus, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you know, have to break that apart, and I was like, and then again, it comes back later as well. Again, I'll keep that for story, but yeah, and then I really like the design of the lab. However, I didn't get, and this is kind of Resident Evil, to be honest, I didn't get how the elevator went down when Gideon was already down there. Like, should the elevator, and there was no way to come back up either. Like, is there...
Once it's down, it's down.
Exactly. Like, I don't quite understand the logistics of the elevator, and I know I sound... I'm sounding very RE0 here, right? But it was
a
very
magic elevator.
Oh my god, that reference! They made it.
I was very confused at the logistics and the geography of this elevator. It was so weird. Yeah, but when you got down there, I liked what I was seeing. It was quite a compact lab, which was quite cool to see. You know,
Yeah, it makes a change from the giant hole in the earth that we've come to expect from remake games.
Right. I think the lab was bigger than the hole the elevator made. But yeah, I did like it as a set piece, and it was just like, yeah, just have fun, try not to die. We're gonna make sure that the zombies don't hold on tight too much. You know, I noticed as I was running through there. I'm not looking forward to my minimalist run when I go through there, because I know I'm probably gonna die a bunch. But yeah, I liked it, and especially Grace. Not so much the elevator.
Kelsey, what do you make of these three little bits?
Yeah, just to echo a couple of things. When she asks Harry, "Are you lying?" Like, it's so good when a character can say something that we're all thinking and it not sound stupid, because we're like, we've seen this 100 times. He's going to take Emily, he's going to do something, he's going to betray you, and it subverts you in a couple of ways. First, Grace tries to call him out on it, which is so good. And then, it turns out, no, he didn't have time to do anything because he was offed pretty quickly. So, yeah, a funny inclusion, but I think he was literally there to subvert you a little bit. So, but it was great, really good. Steve, I wrote James Bond villain lab as well, so it's like, yeah, that's exactly what that was. We're not there very long, but it's fine, and I'm a big fan of the flooding set piece. It felt very Shining, Evil Dead, blood just coming at you, you know, more blood.
Yes.
It was really cool. And all you got to do is just leg it, basically. But yeah, it was really good. And this is another of those little reference sections. You know, James, you talked about it with the wine and stuff like that. So they cram a lot in, even though you're not here for very long. But not too much to say that you folks haven't really. I did also like the sniping bit and the chapel battle. The chapel reminded me of the barn in Resident Evil 4. It felt kind of similar in that sense, where it's on fire and all this kind of stuff's happening, and with the not bloater enemy as a boss, which appears a couple of times, was good. Yeah, not too much to say. It's quick. It's a quick little chain of events that kind of push the story on to its halfway point. I suppose the other thing to say is the facility where you do have to take down the girl. I mean, it was fine. I as I was playing that, I was like, oh, it actually reminded me a bit of the first Birkin section in Remake 2, but which is a bit more focused on actually having a fight with him and unloading your weapons on him, whereas this is a bit more get round and turn the lights on. But that similar setup, I just thought it was cool how she smacks Grace against the wall, and one of them isn't quite working, and I like when you're having to. It's either because again you can do this in a separate order in a different order if you want as well. The one that that takes ages because it's stiff and she's looking as the girl is getting closer and closer. I thought that was a nice little touch, and I was hit every time. I don't know if there's a quick way to do it to avoid her. Maybe obviously
there's a Molotov literally to your right. If you throw that at her, you'll have enough time.
There you go. I probably should have used that. I think that came in handy with the liquors later, but yeah, and then there's a few story moments in these cutscenes, which we'll talk about in a minute. But just all that sticks out for me really is the blood, the blood gushing down the stairs and things like that. So yeah, all good.
All right, let's move on to, and this is even though we've done it, it's kind of fun to say. Let's move on to talking about our return to Raccoon City. East Raccoon City specifically, Leon's big chunky gameplay section, which starts with something that I really want to hear about everyone's first reaction to. I actually had the spider spoilt for me. I know, not via any malicious means or even just scrolling on the internet. Just someone. I went to the launch event for Resident Evil Requiem in London, hosted by NVIDIA. Which was cool, by the way. Shout out to them. That was neat. And I spent some time with various people, influencers and some media people who had already played it early, who A, didn't know I was saving myself for release, and B, didn't necessarily know how big of a Resi nerd I was. So they just kind of let slip that was a thing. And to be honest, I'm okay with it. I was more excited that it was in the game. I was just like, I need to go home and play this. They actually did it. I can't believe they actually did it. So to get back to what I said about an hour and a half ago about this being, they actually did it, the game. This is a big one for me, the return of the spider. But let's talk about East Raccoon City. Steve, what did you make of your return to Raccoon?
For something I've wanted to do for a long time, it wanes on repeat plays. But the first time, it was something reflective, something fun. And then you go through one doorway and I about had a heart attack. I am not an arachnophobe, but I might be now. My first time I had to pause it and go, has I played this yet? I must, I must restrain from talking about it because obviously I know this is a thing you've wanted for a while. And this I feel like could kill people. You play in first person and you're an arachnophobe and a severe arachnophobe. Even I was like tensing up, that's a great entry set piece. And it then gives way to, honestly, unfortunate dry exploration stuff. Like, I feel like maybe one of these train stations we go through may or may not have been the one that Jill was in RE3. But other than that, a lot of it is places we don't recognise. And I think that's the part that really grinds at me. Because there is a really cool set piece battle on the rooftop with music that's not in the soundtrack, Capcom. Why? Why is it not on the soundtrack release? That whole mortal battle thing is surprisingly fun and tense. Battle in the gas station, I think this is going to blow up. This whole place is going to blow up. I'm going to die here. Random redo of the previous boss fight in the chapel, but now in a tiny little, water sluice? Natalia, the sluice. Sorry, I'm getting lost. I'm getting lost in the source of it.
Wow.
But unfortunately, it kind of all blends together until you go into that that fallen over skyscraper, where it kind of picks up again, because you have that whole sequence where you have to, evade breaking the glass or tactically break the glass, followed by the world's most scary elevator ride. And that's where it picks up again for me, because unfortunately a lot of East Raccoon City is just to walk from grey building to grey building, shoot zombies, move on. Outside of the big set piece moments like with Titan Spinner and the BSA Immortal Battle, it unfortunately does run together to the point where, hot take, in a different game, this would have just been cut out and Leon would have started at a bloody RPD. Because not a lot of plot relevance happens here besides introducing Xeno.
Yeah.
But yeah, mechanically, to get to grips with all of Leon's quirks and I suppose grind his stats up, it's okay. It's just not, unfortunately, the areas of East Raccoon City are not areas I would really have been interested in seeing. Places where you've at least visited in some form throughout the franchise, be it in, Outbreak or even like little bits of where we were that one street in RE3 remake. Something like that would have been a lot more compelling than basically Fallout or the Leon of Us.
Yes, it's so funny as well. You made that comparison, but this is kind of what you, I, and my colleague Dan Durkin talked about a little while back. We did a little podcast for What Culture Gaming where we talked about the future of Resident Evil, when there was a lot of discussion about whether or not the new game would be open world and how we could see Capcom approaching that. And this is kind of almost exactly what we said, like the Seattle bit from Last of Us Part 2, but make it Resident Evil. And I do think that the mini areas, these little tiny pockets of stuff going on with streets between, is a cool idea. And it does, like, theoretically go great against Grace's single location horror vibe that she's just been through. But yeah, I can't help but agree with everything you've said. I think the gameplay on display here, it really is. And the gameplay is fine. Like, it's fun enough. But on a first run, it does take forever if you do it all. But because it's just come after the story has ramped up with the introduction of Xeno, which is a big, like, oh my god, what kind of moment. And all of that suddenly stops for hours on end if you're on the first run and you're doing every last part. And it really just overstayed its welcome for me. I thought the Stagler bit was cool because Stagler, that's cool. It almost feels like a make good a little bit for RE3R's lack of Stagler. I thought the warehouse was kind of fun as a first gameplay foray of this bit, moving steadily upwards. The lopsided office block is a brilliant head screw moment, shooting the glass out from underneath the feet. It's all very cool. And yet I couldn't help but feel like there was something missing, that there should have been something more memorable. We're not, like, starved for ideas in this location. So why does it feel like there should have been something else in this part? Whether that is something we recognise from another game, honestly, personally, something we've heard about or not seen in the RE engine before, I don't know, the zoo or something in some form. I know that's quite a big ask, but something from an Outbreak or something we know exists.
If we'd had the clock tower.
Completely, right, the clock tower, maybe the perfect example, probably the thing people wanted the most. I don't want to retread RE engine ground yet more in this section, but there should have been something more. These all just felt like, yeah, whatever, parking garage, okay, cool. It's fine. It's not bad. It's just like, as you said, the build-up of returning to Raccoon City, and it's all just kind of and it doesn't help. And this is probably a conversation for later in the show, that it is all just kind of brown. It's all very brown and grey, isn't it? So that makes it feel even more like not a slog, but it makes it feel even longer because there's no visual variety as well. Kelsey, what did you make of East Raccoon City?
So arriving there, through the cutscenes and the initial bit where you're dropped off and you regain control of Leon was absolutely, like, incredibly emotional. Like, I was so happy and excited, and Steve said you reflect. It's like, yeah, so much going through my mind. And when you first take control of Leon, I stood there, and I did stand there for sort of multiple minutes, just kind of not doing much. I wasn't really walking ahead. I was just sort of taking in the ambience, and I sent Steve a message basically saying I'd arrived here and how it was making me feel. And I was so, overwhelmed to be back. And then very quickly you're hit with the spider. So, so much of the dull stuff that you kind of both mentioned, the spider is notwithstanding. You know, that stuff is great, but yeah, it doesn't. After that, moving around this Raccoon City section, the little areas within themselves are kind of fine. It's a slog to get around. I didn't like the not the high rise bit, or maybe. See, and now I'm even confusing which section is which. It's the one where he's got to reactivate the lift to come back down, the sort of construction building. That part just felt completely, I don't know. It just felt completely pointless. There was nothing interesting about it. There was kind of a lot of reuse of enemies and stuff like that. There was really something missing there. As much as I wasn't super into the mortar section, and that it's at least that was doing something, whereas the other bit felt like filler. I did like the window stuff, as you've mentioned, that was good, and the gas station is cool to see. But as I would have liked, as I mentioned before we did this show, like before we did this episode, if you're going to go back to Raccoon City, kind of give us something that really means something, and there wasn't a whole lot here that meant something for me. Very drab. You know, the Raccoon City section and the RPD section are completely different in terms of what they offered me. And yeah, this is, it's not the same as the island in RE4, but it's that same sort of thing for me where it's like, well, there's just nothing really here that I'm getting. And there's less chaos here than the island. It's less hoardy, but yeah, I explored every single corner that I could, and you know, I was going through it. I wasn't hating it. I'm not hating it, but it was just dull, and it was this trekking through stuff. It's kind of works within the story to a degree, but the pacing drags. And yeah, like I said earlier, I really do wonder if something was cut and they put this hub together as it is, or not that anything was cut, or they had to wrap it up and they're like, this is as much as we can do, and they maybe wanted to do more, and this is basically what we got. So yeah, it's frustrating, and it's not a part that I enjoyed playing through the second time. I did sprint through it the second time round, and then of course you move on to the motorbike chase sequence after, which for me was just probably the weakest and dumbest part of the game. But yeah, I really don't have it disappointed me really. We'll talk about the RPD in a minute, but Raccoon City itself, except for the spider, I could lose this entire part of the game, really. I don't know what it gave me. The couple of good little cutscenes in there, but I didn't get I arrived there with all that emotion, and then I didn't really experience those sort of emotions again until I got to the RPD. It was a bit soulless and dull.
Yeah, I think that's fair. James, how did you feel about East Raccoon?
I'm going to approach it from a different angle. So when I first... Well, actually, I'll talk about the spider first. Absolutely. I also was spoiled by the spider, unfortunately. Which really sucked, because I've been so excited for spiders to be in Resident Evil again. So I would have liked to have, learnt that off my own bag. But yeah, that fight was dope. I think it's a funnel web spider as well. It's based off, which is, I think it's an Australian spider. So I'm not sure why it was there, but I'm not going to ask too many questions. But yeah, it looks so good. And like, it also was quite varied in its attacks and stuff. Like, you couldn't just get behind it because it would just goop at you and also send its babies at you. It wasn't an easy fight either. Like, I remember my first attempt with it, I think I almost dumped everything into it. Like, I was just doing my best just to run away from this thing. It was a great boss fight. And yeah, Capcom, don't shy away from doing this again. Give us more spiders. Even give us maybe some, NRE spiders, Netflix Resident Evil spiders.
Hell yeah.
I want more of their mutated stuff. Like, yes, giant spider is great, but also mutate them, make them weird. But yeah, when it comes to East Raccoon City proper, I want to approach it from a different angle that other folks have, because I was overcome with just how quiet it was when you first enter. Like there's this isolation of this dead city in front of you. Yeah, no, like we've heard, we've heard criticism of it being too long, and lacking variety. And I do agree there are definitely some things that could be taken out for it. But it also kind of fit. You're in this sprawling city that has been nuked, and you're in a place, and this kind of screamed at me. You're in a place that nature hasn't taken back for one reason or another, which I found really sad. Like you don't see you don't see a tree, you don't see grass, right? You don't see anything. It's just barren. Which again, just a very sad, and the fact that there wasn't a lot of enemies. It's just like, well, yeah, like in one regard, I think Sai and I discussed this in a video once. Like, on one regard, I was really excited because I wanted to see what would happen to BOWs if they'd taken 30 years to mutate, which we did get to see with Titan Spinner and Plant 43. But on the other side, I was like, well, it's a nuclear explosion. Yes, we were told later on that the nuclear explosion, its primary directive wasn't to destroy everything, right? But it was still a nuclear explosion. And nuclear explosions deatomize things. They destroy things.
I think over the years, they have basically moved away from nuclear to thermobaric assault.
Right. Oh, yeah.
Probably full well that they're like, well, if we ever want to go back there again, we need to give the slight chance of stuff surviving.
Yeah, and you do see that, like, I mean, there's a handful of enemies, but I think it still fits. It's just in a gameplay sense, does that fit for Leon? Right.
Yeah.
No, that's it.
Like, it is kind of the criticism I have, because yes, it makes sense narratively, and this is probably the only time in this entire podcast where I'm going to agree with the narrative over the gameplay.
The tease.
But it did fit narratively, but yeah, the gameplay kind of sucked. Especially like I like there could have been a little bit more spicy with it. Like, there were, unlike with Grace, where you would come back to certain sections in the care center and you'd be greeted by a blister head and you'd be like, oh crap, what the frick is that that's screaming on the ground? Oh no, Fortunately, I was not spoiled by the blister head beforehand. I didn't watch that trailer with it, so that was a complete shock to me. But with Leon, it's just like, oh, there's a blister head. Oh, there's another blister head. Oh, and a third blister head. Oh, there's a guy with a chainsaw. We've seen that before. I would have liked something different to give us something extra.
Yeah, agreed.
During those kind of return, like, backtracks, because that's something that Capcom does really well with Resident Evil, typically, is that they give, when you go back, they kind of surprise you with something. Here you didn't get that, other than when you were in Central, I would say. Right, but there was no more surprises. So I'm like torn. I'm like, I would have liked more, but also I got it. And I also feel like I think everybody here agrees. I think this was meant to be bigger, or there was something else here, because the streets are open ended. Like, you go to each end of the map, and the streets are open end. Like, and Leon just says, "Oh, it can't go that way. No, that isn't the way." The video game thing. I think you could have. I think at one point maybe there was a plan for it to be bigger. And we wanted that. We wanted to explore Raccoon City, and instead I doubt this is just East Raccoon City. This is just a location within East Raccoon City. Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, I was going to talk about something else, but that's Central.
I mean, you are right about vibes, though. Like, there was at least a few moments where, especially high up, where you could just stop, look around at, like, the whole cityscape and take in the ambience.
Yeah.
And it's just like,
cool. No argument there.
Absolutely. Awash with it, James. I totally vibe with you. Like I said, my main gripes with this aren't so much the aesthetic. It's sameness of like you know boring building block to boring building block. If these were interesting buildings, it would probably have carried it a lot more. At least for me,
and
personally.
to your point, I completely agree that the design and the gameplay are just at odds with each other. Like that is probably the root of the problem here. But yes, let's move on to Central Raccoon City, which is the bike section, I guess we'll talk about. The return to the RPD, the orphanage, and then the descent into Ark will kind of all pull those areas together. Another little collection of stuff. I'll just say, before I go into more specific parts, the bike bit, man, is just so dumb, and I hate that I was right but wrong. But as Kelsey, you kind of alluded to there, where it's like we got some of our wish list right. This is not what I meant by a driving segment. Sure, fine. Like, I just can't believe that they're still putting this stuff in, even though they know that it's like, hey, this is the stuff that everybody makes fun of. Although, on the second playthrough, I was like, do you know what? It's not so bad. It's over quite quickly. I don't have to do a lot. There is at least one part of the game that's worse than that. That I do not ever want to replay. Every time we get there, I'm like, great, hate this bit. And it's not the bike bit. At least the bike bit's kind of over. The bike bit's just kind of a shame because there's just nothing to it. It's just very on rails. And the one BOW that shows up just here and nowhere else. And it's like, oh, that's kind of a shame. I get to actually grapple with the new zombie dog / zombie wolf things.
Horse dog.
But yeah, let's kind of encapsulate all of it. Kelsey, what did you think of all of the Central Raccoon City stuff?
Well, like I say, I kind of touched on the bike thing, but to me, it wasn't even really that the bike section was kind of dumb in itself, but I thought it was really dumb because Gideon suddenly jumps on a bike, and I was just like, what? Like, do you just like spend your Sundays riding through the countryside then, I suppose? Because it's like, I don't know, it was a real cartoon moment for me.
It was a bit,
and, you know, I'm not going to argue that the shot of Leon driving off the building and the craters in the background, it's like, yeah, wow, okay, fist pumping, cool, I get it. I more hated the fact that Gideon was on the bike as well. I just thought that was absolute comedy. Once we were past that, you know, you arrive at where you start with RE2 Remake, and I was back in where I was when I first arrived at Raccoon City earlier, and the feeling started to come back, and I just thought, walking back down the familiar alleyway, approaching the RPD in ruins. It's this is where it started to get good again, and it felt like they did a few things. We are moving on to the RPD, right?
Yeah,
Sorry,
totally.
am I jumping ahead? Yeah. So you push into the RPD, and we've got that quietness left behind that James was talking about here as well. But then there's little touches like the use of the Welcome Leon sign, which I thought was superb as a way to send a message to Leon. The fact that the tool is exactly where he left it in the library, and then we've got these new little pathways because the BSSA have been there with their, you know, sticking their ladders in and stuff like that, so it helps you get around. It just felt like, okay, I'm back here, I'm searching for something, and I'm being left little messages to kind of push me through. And you know, you're not there for a long time. You don't need to be. And whereas it dragged out with the other part of Raccoon City, this section with the RPD, with the back of the RPD, with Kendo and the Kendo shop in it, I think it helped with the cutscenes that were spliced in as well. You know, Leon's kind of flashbacks to Marvin and stuff that you get, and the way he's reflecting, and it's all this stuff I really, really enjoyed, and I think the game won me over again here, and going through the rubble here sort of gave me a few more chills than it did in the city. You know, music cues and stuff like that was really good, and the Mr. X encounter, it's there, it's ticking all this off, but it's snappy and short. I don't think we were retreading too much, which was okay. I have sort of some issues, but yeah, the getting to the RPD proper was really, really cool, and it was helped by the cutscenes, and it felt like those stories were being told. You know, there wasn't much in the way of story out in the city, whereas here we got a bit more with Marvin and Leon thinking about Kendo, and yeah, it was just really, really cool. It felt like the facing of the past in, yeah, I suppose a better paced way than the other stuff was. One thing I didn't say actually earlier, which I did want to give credit for, is the when you first start in Raccoon City, actually, the way that the buildings are kind of recreated closer to the 1998 FMVs, opposed to Remake 2 and 3, where it feels much more like a sort of built-up urban city. Whereas you think about the flat-top buildings in the original FMVs, that Midwestern, and that told me that there was a lot of attention to detail there. So that was really good. To jump back a little bit. But yeah, really, really loved this RPD section, you know, before we got to what's ahead.
Steve, what do you think of the central Raccoon City locations?
I think we're all on the same page with the bike sequence. For as dumb as it is, like in retrospect, it's more, I am sad that the Garma Cerberus dogs aren't reused. And I can appreciate just Victor going, I've had enough of you. I'm like, yeah, I'm not really feeling it myself, mate. You know, generally speaking, I'm glad it's brief, and I think it's like the shortest vehicle sequence in the series, so it gets a pass, is all I'm saying. Like, you know, even with the like almost shark jump riding a skyscraper, flipping like that one GIF that I've already seen in the chat today, you know, of that one jump, yeah, it's passed. But the RPD. And the fact that you have to enter the RPD fundamentally the way you did in the remake, you know, it's sort of canonizing that, you know, at least in 2R's interpretation of things, Leon's Leon A, Claire B. Fair enough. I think that's we just have to cut that rope now. You know, the remakes are canon to RE, at least RE9. You know, I think we accepted that already. But for those diehards out there, that's how it's going to be. I really appreciated it, if only there was one small immersion breaking factor. My first playthrough, I'm trying to get all the little secrets, nooks and crannies, and Tofu's just stalking me. Like, you know, like, which is obviously, I'm having a bit of a serious moment trying to figure out Barry's puzzle here, Tofu, and like, yeah. Suffice to say, that took me out. I appreciate, I know why he's there, and it's just fun. But also, could he not have been playthrough too? I feel like this whole bit leads to the fulfillment of an arc for Leon, like coming to terms with his past, though, doesn't it? Because obviously it ends with him going one-to-one with the Tyrant, seeing reflecting on Robert Kendo and Emily Kendo. And as Kelsey, I think that's actually like pre-order bonus stuff, you know, the Meryl Branner thing, because I remember that charm and the letters from RPD are actually like bonus content. For what it is, like, I'm surprised they had to partition that out, because it's a charm I'll never use, and it's basically 5 heartbreaking notes that Marvin's daughter was looking for him, and then, well, Raccoon City did what Raccoon City does. I appreciate, though, the restraint that the RPD isn't somehow swarmed with loads and loads of like BSAA guys, and it literally is just like 2 zombies that you can sort of picture where they would have been in the original or in the remake of 2. And of course, one of them's the poster boy one that's used in all of the artwork with a hat on. Just now he's 30 years hence. And one's apparently still hungry for the vending machine, by the by. Yeah, fair enough. You know, it's
who was it? Someone in the Discord said that the police officer that's dead in the hallway has now been in more games than Ethan. Quite good.
Yeah.
Perfect. Although they got one thing wrong. Seriously. The dartboard you can shoot in 3 Remake isn't there anymore. Failed. 0 out of 10. You can, in fact, find Resident Evil inside Resident Evil, though, so all is forgiven.
Yeah, true. on the letters thing, it's just like a good time to mention, not only is that kind of weirdly locked behind the deluxe edition, but also it has the soundtrack swap that we've come to expect from remakes, but now it's in a mainline game, which kind of makes sense because you're revisiting old location with an S in brackets. It's just one, really, isn't it? Sort of the orphanage, which logically then means that this thing is worthless, and I have experienced it, and it is worthless. This soundtrack swap, you turn it on, it changes the save room theme across the game to RE2 save room theme. Okay, fine. But otherwise, it doesn't kick in until you get to Raccoon City Central. So you get the streets, you get the main hall of the RPD. After you've done the Tyrant drop-down cutscene, I think you get a bit of first floor before the Tyrant theme kicks in. And then that's it, it's done. You don't ever hear anything from it again.
You get his transformation theme from...
you do get his transformation theme, which is very funny. But yeah, you get like 5 or 6 pieces of music and then that's it. And I was like,
did they not use City of Ruin at all? Like the one time it really should have been...
Stuff. Yeah. I was expecting them to swap the lab theme into Ark or something as well, but nope, nothing.
I used the soundtrack, well, not the soundtrack thing, but the sound effect thing. Like that. I've been playing classic sound effects the entire way through, but...
Hell yeah.
But the soundtrack stayed.
The soundtrack's unfortunately a bit of a mess. Well, not a mess, but just a bit of a letdown. James, what did you think of Central Raccoon City?
When I turned that, the motorbike, I had a visceral reaction to the motorbike scene. It was quite a positive one at first because I thought I was driving.
Oh, no.
You don't drive.
No, you just move left and right.
Actually, you don't even do that. Don't do anything.
Oh dear.
Yeah, you don't do anything. You just shoot. Leon drives that bike. The AI drives the bike. It's literally on rails. You're just doing the shooting. And Victor turning up and just laughing every now and then was so funny as well. I felt like I was in a Mario Kart game.
He's going to throw a shell backwards at you.
Exactly. I expected that at any moment. And the thing is, it's not brought up again either. And then we play chicken with him, as well. And it's just and the stupid moment where you're getting a bit of a taste of, in terms of how I'm going to be when we talk about story here. The stupid moment where Leon throws the axe and it sticks into his bike. Leon, you had no idea that you were going to go back and get that hatchet. You just threw away your hatchet, your titanium coated diamond encrusted axe. Right, at this man who literally dumpstered you when you first saw him in a corridor, and you just, it was so dumb. Anyway, but I think I initially liked it because I thought I was in control, and 2, it was just stupid. It was so dumb that I was like, okay, we have to have one really dumb thing in a Resident Evil game. Unfortunately, this game has several of them. But when I remember it's in the playthrough. You can go look on First Aid Spray YouTube. My reaction, turning the corner and seeing RPG. So I think I went, oh, what's this green stuff for? Is that the RPD? And I just got shivers all over me. Like it was core memory stuff. And I was really sad it was so short-lived. Though I think at the same time, it was perfectly encapsulated, like going through that door and, Kels, you said it earlier on, where you get these flashbacks with Leon. And Leon, Leon's having these flashbacks, this trauma he's going through, of everything, and then going through there and then seeing again just this dead building with good memories, of what it used to be. Even still seeing the is it secret operation or top secret operation? No, really made me giggle. Barry's little hunt, his little treasure hunt, that you have. I did again seeing Rebecca in that bloody photograph. I was like, could we stop using this photograph? Crying out loud! You just can't stop. It's I think that photograph has been in more games than Rebecca has. Like,
It absolutely has.
right. And it's
100%
just,
has.
can you stop disrespecting this woman and put her in a video game already?
Yeah, right.
Maybe with Sherry in a DLC, perhaps, of a game. But yeah, I did enjoy it though. Like, I did enjoy it. I wanted it to be more open-ended, but I wanted that for East Raccoon City as well. It would have been nice if you could just travel here, you know, instead of having that bike scene, you know, where you're traveling, you know, with a loading screen essentially, because you're not really doing anything in that scene. It would have been nice if you could just literally travel there on your bike and explore things as you go. And I know that would mean, you know, you're dealing with a bigger game, but we were told this was the biggest game, you know, and
Yeah.
yes, sure, it's pretty big. It took me 14 hours to complete on my first playthrough. Everyone else, I don't know how you did it, but you were completing like 8 and 9 hours. I don't get that. How you did that on your first playthrough. But I was expecting more, and it's like an over 70 gigabyte game. It's huge as well. Yeah, and like I think another thing was, sorry, what was I say?
No, I was just gonna say, for what it's worth, the playtime stuff is very misleading, because I got 10.5 hours on my first playthrough. It took me lots more than 10.5. Not just because of dying, but also the length and the amount of cutscenes in this game. Your runtime actually playing the game is a lot longer than the time that comes up at the end.
That makes sense. I mean, yeah, the 9 hours. Sorry, not 9 hours. I did nine parts, and each part was at least 2 hours long. So,
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, so there was one thing none of us mentioned yet, and it's like when you're on your way to the Ark, and it is there is a massive amount of depth that you get as you're leading down to Plant 43. Like when you're going through the train carts, and you look out of the windows, you're in like some kind of gorge, and it is so big. Like the scale is just But one thing I would say, when that came across in the game, one thing I was thinking in my head was, I would have loved to have seen that on the map. You know, when you have that big wide shot of the nuclear site, you don't see it. You don't see it there at all. I'm like, where is this? This is massive. And you're near the site. You're right next to it, because that's where Ark is. It's like a mile out from the crater. Right, so you should be able to see it, but you don't. But I mean, that's just a bugbear. But yeah, that the massive scale of this gorge Plant 43 is just, I don't know, has it dug itself down there? Has it pushed the gorge apart itself? Like after the explosion, how did this happen? Yeah, and I did really like Plant 43 as a design. And kind of leading up to it, it was nice to kind of go into the darkness again and the horror of it again with Leon, like going down there, because it did spook me. Those plants got me every time. But yeah, overall, I enjoyed it. Would have liked more. The bike section sucks.
I thought I'd let you all kind of talk about that a bit before I give my thoughts on it, because I have some negatives around this area. Not that I didn't think that the RPD stuff was cool. It did that thing where I just I walked through it slowly and really kind of tried to drink in what they were giving me, because I had a feeling that it was going to be quite a short area, and it was. And I agree, it was exactly kind of what it should have been. Like, it left me kind of wanting more, and I'd sort of prefer that than it just being like, here's the whole RPD, you spend hours in it. It's like, well, we've kind of done that. It didn't give me the nostalgia pangs or any particular emotional pangs, partly obviously because my heart lies with the original, but also we've seen this location so much since 2019 that coming back to it 7 years later is really not that big of a deal. Like, it's in Remake 2, it's in Remake 3, it's in RE-verse, it's in Dead by Daylight even. Heck, it's in the mobile version of PUBG, if you like.
Wow.
So I'm like, well, I've seen this, and I've seen it in states of disarray as well, thanks to some of these games. But the nods and the little touches are very good. The files, stuff that doesn't even make sense, but I'm here for it. Like Jill's beret suddenly being on her desk. Maybe she left that. I don't know. At some point, I don't know how he got there. I don't care. It doesn't matter. You're right. Like stuff like that's cool. But there's stuff that I just like. For me, the tyrant appearance sucks. I think it's dumb, and in a game full of wish fulfillment, fan service stuff, most of it is good or intriguing. This is just pointless. Like, I don't get why this is here other than just to be like, he's the guy from this location and you know him from this location. Don't you remember that game from 7 years ago? It's like, and it's over so quickly. Like, he stops chasing you, basically. You get to the main hall and he just gives up. Okay. Like, him using the helicopter just feels like cheap fan service. I don't know. I'm just, I wasn't really on board with it. It's made even worse by Leon being like, I remember you. Well, yeah, of course you do, Leon, because you know he's a mass-produced weapon because you're in the bioterrorism way of life. You have fought other tyrants before, canonically, if we believe that Damnation is still canon. He's experienced tyrants at least once more. It's not just one guy. So it's like, okay, it should just be like, oh, one of these things. But I don't know. It just, the boss fight is cool for what it's worth. The spectacle of the boss fight is really cool. And Leon overcoming the super tyrant so quickly and being able to like parry it and stuff like that is obviously like a cool character growth moment. But you could take it out and it really wouldn't change the game for me all that much. What I did find intriguing, other than doing all the obvious revisits of RE2R stuff rather than going anywhere new or anywhere old that we hadn't seen in a very long time, finding the skeleton at Kendo's, just one though, isn't it? Just one. So does that mean that Ghost Survivors is canon and he did get out? What happened there? So I thought that was kind of interesting. The descent into the Ark is all right. I was happy to see and fight a plant monster again, like the spider. It feels like we've listened to the fans kind of thing. And it's a really cool looking thing. We've talked about that before a lot about in terms of what survives the blast of Raccoon City and stuff like G or Plant 43 being underneath and still kind of going strong for 30 years has always been a really interesting proposition. So to see it played out is really cool. And then, of course, as we step into Ark, for what it's worth, I'll just tag this on the end, another fan service thing, which may be cheap, but I shouted as when I saw it, was HCF boxes.
Yeah. Yep.
A name that got dropped in RE7 that we haven't heard since Code Veronica days and we haven't gone back to since RE7. This is probably going to amount to nothing. Although, actually, I thought the story ties it in quite nicely. But it was cool to see that and Tricell, certainly, as if RE9 is this big monumental moment in the plot, whether it's the beginning of something new or the end of old things. I enjoyed seeing that little cap off before we get into the Ark. So yes, let's talk about the final location of the game. Finally, we've made it. The lab, the Ark, the third underground laboratory in Raccoon City. A small Midwestern...
Does no one want to spend 10 minutes talking about the orphanage?
No, I gave you all the chance. I gave you all the chance and you just went straight over
I know, I'd just say it's just funny that no one wants to.
It wouldn't suck so bad if it wasn't for the fact that 90% of it is the same as Sherry's route in Remake 2.
Exactly the same.
Like, except for one change into this new lab that looks cleaner than it should do in 1990 compared to all the other...
So weird, isn't it? Hey, do you remember that Sherry bit you all love in Remake 2? Let's just do it again. So weird. No,
it should have been a cutscene, the orphanage, I think.
Agreed.
It didn't need to be a playable section.
Yeah.
I did think the Ark, though, is very funny, of course, because Raccoon City is a small Midwestern town which is held up on stilts, clearly, because there's no underground. Underneath it, it's just 3 laboratories. It's mad.
Build the labs first and then put the
well.
city on top. Is it a full extrapolation of the mansion? You have the fake lab and then the fake city and then...
It's nonsense, isn't it? They're all in the same kind of area as well. Like, logistically, it just doesn't make sense. This, I don't care much for Ark. as a design, it's very Nest 2. It looks the same in that sterile, clean way that Umbrella Labs have become since the movies really kind of set that kind of path up for us. I'll also keep going. I'll get all my stuff out here while I'm here. That thing I alluded to about the worst part in the game is in Ark. The Elite Guard shootout is the worst moment in Resident Evil Requiem. It's probably the worst moment in the RE Engine series, and it's one of the worst moments in the series, full stop. This is awful, and all of the jokes that we made back in the day about, well, not even jokes, we knew that Capcom were trying to chase esports with RE6 and Umbrella Corps and trying to be like Call of Duty, and then they actually just do a Call of Duty bit in Requiem. It sucks. This is not why I play these games. This is not why most people come to these games. And also, just that open section where you can sick a liquor on them, it's just poorly designed. Like that walkway, they can shoot you from underneath, and most of the time you can't even see them. Like, it's awfully designed. I hate this bit. The Ark overall is just kind of, it's okay. It's an end game Resident Evil lab. It doesn't take very long. You kind of through it at this point. But this is made demonstrably worse by this bit. Kelsey, what do you think of the Ark?
I think I agree with basically everything you've said, although I do think in a couple of ways it does attempt to carve out its own identity with things like the doors, for example, in the sort of almost looks like a nervous system, in the panel to open the doors, and the anatomical statues and the skeletons and the displays and the fetus pods. It's got something about it that while it shares a lot in common with Nest, I was like, okay, it doesn't just feel like I'm retreading. It feels like they have tried to do something that sets its purpose aside from what those other labs were to a degree. Not to a large degree, but there was something there. But yeah, I agree. I didn't like the elite soldiers. I did, I thought it was fun to set the liquor loose, but sure. I was like, hey, hang on, I'm not kind of being sneaky here because you get shot no matter which way you go. So that was annoying. But we have the return of the liquors. There's one point where there's like maybe 5 or 6 of them come at you just before you get on the elevator, which is quite intense. And you've got a couple of explosive barrels around there to play with. I don't know. This might be like a lore thing, but the zombies in here. Oh no, I'm thinking about Raccoon City. I was like, these zombies that are supposed to remember stuff, but it's like, isn't there supposed to be OG zombies? And why do the OG zombies have that same trait that the memory zombies do? But I'm getting lost in the weeds there. I get confused over which zombie's which in this game sometimes. But the being in the lab, it gives you a couple of new little things. Like I said, the broken glass with the liquors I liked with Grace. We've got almost the reference to Resident Evil 3's BOW container boxes, but they're more, the other container boxes with items in. And you just know as you're going around some of these rooms, right, I'm going to open one of these and there's going to be a zombie in there, and there is. So it's sort of like, yep, you did what I was kind of expecting there. But it's quite a compact lab area. But I did think it does have some kind of its own atmosphere, some weirdness about it that's felt unique and less scientific than something like Nest. Like the sort of orbs you use to get into the door, and the way that some of the furniture was like very kind of retro future sort of triangles and stuff like that. Like it looked like it was out of the Jetsons or something. And yeah, there was a few things in here that I was like, okay, it's something different, despite I was like, this is lab 3 or 4 under Raccoon City. I don't know. It's just, it's getting a bit silly in that sense. But so as the location on a whole, I didn't dislike it. I did hate the elite soldiers. Obviously, we got the meeting with Hunk as well, which, is cool. I not too sure how I feel about it. I don't know why he was there. I guess this is the sort of thing where you get into real deep lore stuff, but he's there, and he's there for the fans. And yeah, it was a fun little kind of Krauser-like battle with him as well. And then eventually leading on to sort of final boss battle. We might talk about that in a bit, but on a whole, some weirdness about it that I did kind of like, the fetuses on the wall and stuff like that. It was, kind of Matrixy, and some stuff going on for it. But fine.
James, thoughts on the Ark?
Sorry, yes, hello, I'm here. So I did like the arc, and it was like I like the contrast between the dead city and then going into this bright, sterile location.
That's fair.
It was something I did like.
Yeah.
However, I also hated the Elite Guard. It's just, speaking of the location, the thing that I hated about that fight is that Capcom did everything they could to make sure that you could never get an angle. Right? You could never get an angle from the liquor from when you came into the room, despite the game saying, by the way, you can let that liquor free. Right? You can't, even if you sneak, because I've tried, you can't even go up the ladder, go all the way to the end and shoot it from the end of the walkway. You can't. You have to go down there. Right?
Yeah.
And you have to, and there's no way, like, narratively this would make sense. You have to go over there because there's no way you're killing all 4 of them, right? Because I've killed 3, I haven't managed to kill 4, right? Because one always gets away, it always sneaks away, and then you're in a standoff. You're just standing on the other side because the other guy will never poke his head out, right? He'll just stand there. You have to get up and sneak over and try and snipe him, and you gotta hope that he isn't behind one of those impossible angles. Otherwise, you have to go down and risk it, right, to try and shoot him. It's just, yeah, it's crap. It's awful. It's like, I like the first introduction where Leon,
like the server room thing.
Yeah, I like that one. That was fine because that was kind of nice. Like, you could take one off and then you'd have to. I didn't like the fact that if they got like a half a second burst into you, you would just die. Because I would have to put I would have to put half a magazine into one of them for them to die, like, depending on the weapon it was. But yeah, I can be more charitable about that than I can be that big room with the liquor. It was just bad. Also, Hunk was just had I think it was Chaotic Claire actually who I was talking to about this. Chaotic Claire said Hunk just has the Krauser moveset.
Yeah. Seems like it.
Yeah, which is quite funny. Also, and maybe this is a hot take, I don't know. But unlike the Krauser fight, which I kind of liked in RE4R, I didn't like Krauser very much, but I liked that fight. Because of the buffering and the delay of inputs with Leon, the parrying felt weird against him. Like, it felt weird against the commander. You had no auto parry, or rather auto block or anything like that. You couldn't take less damage. And also the commander would often, or Hunk would often fake you out. Right? And it was a weird fight. I don't know if I like it or not. I was like, I'm 50-50 on it. But it was really dope. Well, I kind of whooped a little bit when I saw the neck snapper start. I was like, oh my God, it is Hunk, because when I heard his voice, I'm like, wait, that sounds like Hunk. But when the neck snap happened, I was like, oh, it is Hunk, which was very exciting. But yeah, otherwise, I did like all the architecture of the place, specifically when you go into that hallway, like Kel said, with the statues, like the evolution of man almost, but into something else. It was, it gave me flashbacks to Prometheus, like a little bit from the beginning and
Same.
stuff. And it was, and the engine, they look very engineer-like as well. There's your alien reference. I've done so well. I could have been Alien Isolationing all the way through this podcast. But yeah, overall, I did like Arc. But yeah, how many of these freaking things are there? Like, these labs are there underneath Raccoon City, and also, yes, why is everything on stilts? Is there like an underground floodplain? Underneath Raccoon City where we have all these labs? I'm not sure.
Steve, thoughts on the lab in this game? Ark.
See, I'm a soft spot for a big sci-fi lab at the end. Like I even like, not to be Steve the Contrarian, I didn't absolutely despise the USS fight. I know they're not really the USS; they're the Elite Guard of the Connections or whatever the frig. The USS, all right. I didn't have that much of a hard time with it for two reasons. I had bought body armor, which apparently is a thing that is frowned upon in the podcast community right this moment. And if you take cover against a wall and you aim, you do peek out. And that's that plus shotgun or rifle solved 90% of that encounter for me. I'm sorry to upset you all, but I'm just use cover and shoot those things that smoke them out.
I tried, Steve.
Okay. I am proud of you regardless. You got through it. And I like the Hunk fight for two reasons. One, yes, he's called the commander, but yes, it's obviously Hunk. The weirdo's coping online saying it can't be Hunk. Hunk can't die. Neither does the commander. Like, you literally, you take him out, you leave the room and come back. He's the only corpse that disappears. Like, he's fine. He's walked it off somehow. Like, if anyone can, Hunk can. I more want to talk about the second half of the lab, where it feels like one part's a compromised lab, and then another is almost like a sales pitch area followed by, I don't know, like storage boxes filled with monsters, and then Spencer's like lab room. I kind of dig the whole vibe of the second bit with Grace, because it's like a small, tight area with just enough spokes you can backtrack and have a little adventure, which is a nice reprieve from having been over-the-shoulder super gunman for, at this point, too long for Steve. He was tired. It's 5 a.m. I want something different. And then inject a liquor in the bum with this juice and watch it explode. I was in awe. It was gratuitous and it was violent, and it was like just the breath of fresh air, pun intended, that I needed. And I kind of dig it. Like, the idea of seeing one of these fronts as a bioweapons sales place, not just a nightmare factory, or in this case, Elpress's refinery, was interesting. We don't see enough of it. We see like a few rooms of the sales catalogues and the places where these evil men have clearly sat down to chat about it. But it's different in a way. That it provides another face to, in this case, the Connections who have reappropriated Umbrella technologies. I kind of find it interesting. Like, I'm not saying it's perfect by any means. Like, of all the big super labs in the series, I still think this doesn't come close. But as a slightly different take on it, I'll take it. Plus, it was cute seeing, I guess, where Spencer spent most of his years before Umbrella completely got robbed from him. And he apparently has this big-ass terminal that only uses MO discs. In 2004 at the latest. Okay, fair enough. You do you, bud. But yeah, overall, I didn't have too much of a strenuous time with it, and it was nice to play as Grace again. When it comes back to Leon's bit, it's just 2 rooms of horde fighting. It's more the gameplay gimmick of his narrative issue coming to him that's more interesting at that point.
Yeah, I will say, looking back on now, we talked about all of the locations, even though I've had criticisms about many of them. I don't think any of them are outright abjectly terrible. There are far worse in many Resident Evil games, and that will help me continue to enjoy playing through this game, and helps it certainly gain some points where it otherwise falls down, which appropriately brings us to the story discussion. This is the end of part 1 of First Aid Spray's Resident Evil Requiem full spoiler review. To hear us discuss the story, the presentation, and give our final conclusions, please listen to part 2 of the podcast, which is available wherever you're listening to this one.